I never knew you guys were so spineless. A cold familiar voice sent shivers down every fleeing soldier's spine. How can they not recognize this voice? It was none other than Victoria. Seeing her, their faces immediately lit up in joy like Christmas trees. Originally they had forgotten about her while some thought that she had died at the hand of the Eastern Emperor. But now that she was here, all the soldiers felt as if heaven was helping them. Their faces couldn't hide their excitement. With Victoria here, she alone can take out the enemy troops and let them retreat peacefully. We might have lost this battle. But as long as we retreat, the victory will be ours next time. This is what almost all the soldiers thought. Seeing Victoria, the soldiers were no longer in a hurry to escape. They all assumed that Victoria was going to protect them. Looking at Victoria, Adam frowned. He had many questions in his mind, such as where was Aditya? Who won the battle? But right now he had a bigger and far more important issue at his hand. If Victoria stood against them, then even if they all attack her at the same time, they would still lose and end up dying at her hand. A peak 5th order cultivator is a nuclear missile. They are known as calamities. Their attacks are capable of destroying an entire city. Some people also call them demigods, as 5th order cultivators stand at the very top. One nuclear missile can be stopped with another nuclear missile. Everyone on the battlefield stopped and nervously looked at Victoria. The fleeing troops of the Mystic Spring Empire looked happy and excited and were looking at their enemies with a mocking face. However, a few seconds later, the smiles on all the soldiers started disappearing one by one as they realized they were still under her pressure. The pressure coming from her body was so strong that they could not move. If Victoria hadn't held back, her cultivation pressure would be instantly killed all the First Order soldiers. I understand that she is angry with us for being so cowardly, but why is she pressuring us with her cultivation? All the soldiers had similar thoughts in their heads. The silence was very suffocating. After an entire minute, someone from the Mystic Spring Empire's military couldn't keep silent anymore. After all, being pressured by a peak 5th order cultivator wasn't exactly pleasant. Even though he was a beginner 3rd order cultivator, he still was feeling extremely uncomfortable. Being pressured like this, he couldn't circulate his mana. His legs and arms were in pain. He felt slightly suffocated and found it a little bit hard to breathe. He could only imagine what the lower order troops are going through. The sufferings of the lower order troops were many times harsher than his. Lady Victoria, I know that you don't like cowards. But if you continue to pressure us with your cultivation, I am afraid the lower order soldiers won't be able to take it for much longer. You might end up making some unconscious. As he finished speaking, a few weak soldiers already had lost consciousness. He spoke respectfully as possible so that Victoria won't get angry at him and end up killing him. It took him a lot of courage to say these words. After all, he was dealing with a peak 5th order cultivator. Even a small mistake could cost him his life. He was trying to make her remember that they were on the same side. Inwardly he was feeling very frustrated and angry for being treated like this. Because she is a peak 5th order cultivator, he can't say or do anything against her. Victoria glanced at the man who spoke just now. Who are you? There was an awkward silence. The man who spoke felt very embarrassed after hearing her words. The anger in his heart increased. Victoria wasn't pretending to not recognize him or anything like that. She was genuinely confused about who this person was. In the Mystic Spring Empire, there were thousands of other high-ranked soldiers like him. It is impossible for her to remember all of their names and faces. Also, besides fighting and carrying out the orders of the Emperor, Victoria spent all of her time in training just like Lawson. As a result, there is a rift between her and others in the military. She doesn't like parties or any social gathering as she is a socially awkward person. She hardly ever interacted with anyone from the military. First, I would like to make things clear once and for all. She looked at everyone who was also looking at her. From now on, I am no longer a part of the Mystic Spring Empire. I have severed all of my ties with the Mystic Spring Empire. Gulp. The soldiers gulped and nervously waited for her next sentence that could. I have pledged my loyalty to the Eastern Empire. His Majesty, Aditya, is my master and I am his Dragonian. Boom. Just as she finished saying these words, crimson-red dragon wings appeared on her back, proving that she has become a dragon now. Seeing this, the soldiers knew that it was over. Crack. Suddenly the pressure coming from their former general intensified. Giant cracks started to appear on the ground around her. However, none of the Eastern and Echo Dominion Empire's troops felt any pressure. It was as if the gravity around Victoria had been increased by several times and denser. All Third Order Mystic Spring Empire's troops fell to their knees and grabbed their throat as they struggled hard to breathe. The bodies of the First Order soldiers directly exploded like a water balloon while most of the Second Order soldiers died as their hearts stopped beating. Victoria did not show any mercy even though these soldiers were her subordinate just an hour ago. Boom. Once again Victoria increased the pressure. This time, all of the Second Order soldiers' bodies exploded like water balloons, leaving behind small pieces of meat and bones all over the place. While the Third Order cultivators were on the verge of death. The pressure was just too much for them. Their bodies were in immense pain. It was as if they were buried under a mountain. Their bones were slowly cracking and getting crashed. As their lives were being squeezed out, they couldn't even scream due to the immense pressure. This horrifying scene was just too much for the other soldiers to watch. This is too much to watch. Seeing how the bodies of the soldiers were exploding like water balloons and leaving behind small pieces of their bodies all over the place, the soldier couldn't take it anymore and ended up vomiting. If possible, I would like to erase this horrifying memory from my brain. Thank God that she came to our side. Just imagining myself in their places, I can feel my very soul screaming in agony. She has gotten stronger after becoming a Dragonian. When the battle started, Adam was able to sense her aura. A minute later, the remaining Mystic Spring Empire's troops that stayed on the battlefield when Victoria arrived had been killed by her aura pressure alone. She was standing while being surrounded by blood, small pieces of meat, and bones. The ground around her had been painted with blood. When Ashton arrived at the battlefield, he saw this and was very surprised. "Where is she?" he asked Adam. Before she came, many other troops had managed to flee. She had gone to chase them down along with the Dragonians. While the normal soldiers were tired after fighting a battle, the Dragonians had enough stamina left to chase the enemy troops and kill them. Ashton looked at Daxton, who had come out of his hiding and was standing next to Adam and talking with him about their upcoming actions. Previously Ashton wasn't planning on showing himself, but seeing how things went, he had to come out. Ashton couldn't leave even though he wanted, as he was currently the guardian of the Emperor. But Ashton was still hesitant. The safety of the Emperor was more important. "I have Adam here. Besides, I don't think anyone has the courage to attack me right now." "Alright." Ashton sensed Aditya's presence. Feeling relieved that Aditya was here, he left without wasting any more time. Scene change. The Emperor and the Mystic Empire's Prime Minister watched the whole battle using an artifact. He was standing in front of a well. On the well water, a projection of what was happening on the battlefield was seen. And when the Emperor saw Victoria killing his troops, he completely lost his mind. Bang! "This damn bitch. I never thought the dog I raised would become bold enough to bite me." But seeing the very woman who had been adopted by the Empire and raised to serve the Empire betraying him, made the Emperor extremely mad and pissed. When he sent his troops to fight the enemy, he did not send his full troop, which was in millions. The Oracle Alliance's leader, Lucas, ordered him to first send a small number of troops to test the waters. The same could be said for the Echo Dominion Empire. This is what he did. He sent Victoria so that she can keep their casualties as minimum as possible while winning the battle. Now all of his plans had been ruined. Not only did his troops brutally lose the fight, but they also left the battlefield like cowards. On top of all that, one of the strongest pillars of his empire and one of his most trusted subordinates just betrayed him. And turned against him. The situation was in no way acceptable to the Emperor. "Write a report about everything that happened and send it to His Majesty Lucas. I am going to cool my mind." The Emperor left this work to Prime Minister and went to cool his head, as he knew without cooling his head off, he will make rush decisions which might cause them to lose the war. Whenever the Mystic Empire Emperor talked about cooling his head, someone in the castle definitely died. As for who killed that person, no one dared to question it. The Mystic Spring Empire still had an advantage in this war. Seeing the Emperor leave, the Prime Minister sighed before deciding to watch the battlefield for a little longer to see if he can learn anything more interesting. "Father, how did everything go?" After Aditya returned, Adam told him what Victoria did there. Aditya didn't mind her actions. "We lost around 10,000 men. And another 20,000 injured. I came here, preparing for the worst, but with you here, we won. Your Majesty, what are you planning on doing now? Should we march our troops forward and cross the borders of the Mystic Spring Empire?" "For now, Father, I think you and the troops should camp here. I will head to other battlefields and make sure that we win." "Alright." Daxton and Adam saw no problem with the arrangement. Since Aditya was personally going with them, what could possibly go wrong? Aditya stayed behind for some time. He then left everything to Adam and Nathan. He went to the second battlefield. Scene change ____. "Buddy, I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling. Something is telling me that we are going to get into big trouble." The archer's best friend rolled his eyes and replied in a sarcastic way. "I am not joking, brother. I am taking your brothers very seriously. Unless a peak 5th order cultivator personally comes for us, I don't think the situation could get any worse." Ironically, just as he finished his words, Victoria flew in front of them. Seeing Victoria, the first archer looked at his best friend with a happy smile. "You and your garbage mouth." Meanwhile, Victoria heard what they were talking about. "You guys have two choices. Surrender or die." Both soldiers were completely confused as they thought that Victoria was from their side. "But you are, don't make me repeat myself, otherwise, I will kill you too." Of all the soldiers she has met, she had given them two choices. And every time, she gave them two choices, instead of replying they would ask why she was asking them this question. If these two wasted her time any longer, she would just kill them and move on. "We surrender." Who would want to die? Both archers were orphans and were singles. At least by surrendering they would survive longer. Good choices. Now head back to the battlefield and surrender yourselves. Don't try to play any tricks, as I can sense you. The moment you try to play any tricks, I am going to kill you too. Both archers repeatedly nodded their heads. They couldn't see that Victoria was lying. Obviously, she can't sense that far. She wasn't a sensory cultivator. Her senses were sharp as Aditya's. The hunt went on for around 3 hours. In her hunt, she met many troops. Most became cowards facing her and chose to surrender. Following Victoria, Ashton also was doing things differently. Any soldier that he saw was instantly killed. In the last 2 decades, together with the Echo Nexus Empire, the Mystic Spring Empire had bullied the Echo Dominion Empire in many ways. Many of the soldiers from the Mystic Spring Empire caused trouble at their borders. The soldiers of the Echo Dominion Empire had hatred for the Mystic Spring Empire. Previously, whenever the Mystic Spring Empire's soldiers caused trouble nearby the borders, the Emperor couldn't send any 5th order cultivator. He instead used to send Adam. Sending a 5th order cultivator is not a small matter. If Daxton had sent a 5th Order cultivator, then the Mystic Spring Empire would have responded by sending their 5th Order cultivator. Besides, 2 5th Order cultivators, there were also the Dragonians who were chasing the fleeing soldiers. In the end, around 90% of all the fleeing troops either had been captured or surrendered, or killed. Among the remaining 10%, some died at the hands of wild magic animals or had fallen into traps built by magic animals. The troops that did manage to make it back alive were injured and won't be able to fight for the next 4 to 7 days. In the end, the Mystic Spring Empire lost 500,000 troops. The result of their first confrontation ended in the Mystic Spring Empire's loss. The Empire lost one of its best and most powerful peak 5th Order cultivators, they lost their powerful commander who had the potential to become 5th Order in the near future, 500,000 troops have either died or surrendered, and all the magic cannons that they left behind. All these were a major loss for the Empire. Scene change ____. From atop of a tree, a man who was wearing a black outfit to blend into the darkness was holding a big eyeball in his hands. Right now, after the battle ended, the enemy troops were building camps. Some soldiers were cooking fresh food. How long I will have to remain standing on this tree? But it was his biggest mistake thinking that no one has sensed his presence. If you don't want to die, then I suggest you leave this place. The man's entire body was petrified in fear as he saw Victoria standing in front of him. We only allowed you to stay here because we wanted the Emperor to see what was happening here. Now that the battle has ended, your task is over. Now get lost before I change my mind and decide to kill you. It's not like he gained any valuable information. If he had, she would have killed him. Alright. Victoria kept an eye on the man as he slowly retreated back towards the Mystic Spring Empire's border through the dark forest. As soon as the envoy left, the fleeing soldiers that surrendered started reaching the camp one by one. As she had sent the envoy away, the Empire won't know how many of their soldiers were captured and would be used against them in the upcoming battle. Hephaestus Kingdom. The Hephaestus Kingdom is a place that is called the hub of all illegal activities in the Dying Isle continent. Over the years, this kingdom has grown into the capital of the Dying Isle continent's underworld. All kinds of illegal activities existed here. People were killed in broad daylight. The boundary between legal and illegal had been erased. The king of this kingdom wasn't taken seriously and was openly mocked by anyone, and there is nothing that the king could do to stop it. Even though the king had no real power, his presence kept the whole kingdom together. The Echo Nexus Empire already had a big influence in the Hephaestus Kingdom. It was because of the Echo Nexus Empire that the current Hephaestus Kingdom had become so miserable. The Hephaestus Kingdom was located at the edge of the northwest region. In terms of power, the kingdom is considered to be the weakest among the 8 empires that existed in the northwest region. The geography of the Hephaestus Kingdom is quite interesting. In the west, the kingdom shares borders with the Uzacan Empire. And finally, the north, Hephaestus Kingdom faces most threats from their northern neighbors. The first and most important reason for this is the numerous pirates that have spread their terror into the sea. The pirates live happily among themselves and solve their disputes by hosting swimming competitions. There is almost no fighting among the pirates or the gangs on the land. Besides the pirates, the sea was active with powerful oceanic magic beasts. If one did manage to survive the pirates and the oceanic magic beasts, once they reached the shore of Hephaestus Empire, criminals would be waiting to charge them 100 or even 1,000 gold coins sometimes. The Hargio Mountains are the tallest in the whole Dying Isle continent. There are a few places in the Dying Isle continents that are considered forbidden zones or forbidden places. Some think that Ice Phoenix also lives at the top of the Hargio Mountains. No cultivator to this day has managed to reach the top of the Hargio Mountains. The cultivators that did try to explore the Hargio Mountains and their surroundings never made it back. Hargio Mountains is a place that is avoided by everyone. In this war, the Echo Dominion Empire is very unlucky. The empire has been attacked from 3 sides, while the Hephaestus Kingdom only has to face attack from one side. This meant that the Hephaestus King won't have to divert his attention, resources, troops, and money. Several kilometers away from the northern border of the Hephaestus Kingdom, the kingdom's troops stopped for a break. The troops that King Aidan Scott was leading himself were mostly Eastern Empire's troops. If Aditya hadn't sent 500,000 troops and 5,000 Dragonians to the Hephaestus Kingdom, the kingdom would have been the first one to fall in this war. Excluding the 500,000 troops of the Eastern Empire, the kingdom barely had 100,000. And among the 100,000 troops, almost all of the troops were lacking the proper training, discipline, and basic equipment that a soldier needs to have. The troops of the Hephaestus Kingdom looked more like thugs than soldiers. This was all the troops that the Hephaestus Kingdom had left. Standing on top of a small mountain, King Adrian and his Prime Minister Fabian watched their soldiers while sitting on horses. Prime Minister Fabian chose to remain silent at this moment as he didn't have any words to respond to the king. Look at the soldiers that I have raised. They look so strong and frightening. Just seeing them, the enemy troops will flee from the battle. My troops are the best army in this continent. Beneath these sarcastic sentences, the pain of King Adrian was felt by Prime Minister Fabian. Your Majesty, if we win this war, then we can ask His Majesty to help us out. With the Eastern Empire's help, soon everything will be fixed. There will be no matter gangs, thugs, and corruption in this kingdom. Peace will once again return to the land of Hephaestus Kingdom. Sigh. Adrian came down and looked at the night sky. If we win everything. If we lose everything. The reason Adrian joined this war by offending the gangs in his kingdom is because of a ray of hope that he saw in the Eastern Empire. It was the very ray of hope that he and his kingdom's people desperately needed to bring peace and to find their happiness. And that ray of hope lay inside the Dragon Palace located at the capital of the Eastern Empire. For years Adrian has been enduring everything that the gangs were doing. But after years of enduring, just when he thought that he was going to be consumed by darkness and lose everything, a light shined upon him from heaven. The light guided him to Aditya. The light gave him an opportunity. It was an opportunity to take revenge for the death of his father, it was an opportunity to rebuild and restore everything that he has lost over the years, it was an opportunity to bring peace to his people, and finally, it was an opportunity to wipe out all of his enemies once and for all. The Echo Nexus Emperor, Lucas, was responsible for the fall of the Hephaestus Empire and Adian's father. His own nobles called him a fool when he declared that they were going to join the Eastern Empire and wage war against the Oracle Alliance. But Adian didn't care. He was tired. He wanted to change. Whether this change was going to end him or bring great revolution to his empire was still unknown to him. But Adian felt it. His heart told him that this was the chance. This type of opportunity won't knock on his door for the next 1,000 or even 10,000 years. Really, thank you very much to all those who send support with valuable golden tickets. While Adian and Fabian were talking among themselves while looking out for the enemy troops, the atmosphere within the troops was tense. There was clear-cut tension among the Istran soldiers and the Hephaestus soldiers. When the Istran troops arrived here, instead of being greeted with smiles and pleasant words, they were greeted with ridicule and cursed words. Under General Henry's orders, none of the Istran soldiers replied back even though they were boiling in anger. Seeing them in silence, the Hephaestus Kingdom soldiers became bolder as time passed. They started bullying the Istran soldiers in every way possible. Whether it was through words or through actions. The Istran soldiers tried their best to not lose their minds in anger and started beating the living fuck out of them, thug-looking soldiers. Within the army. Brother, what happened? What are you looking for? Harry, who was Peak Second Order Knight of the Istran Empire, asked Ryan. As both of them knew each other, both called each other brothers. In the military, it was quite normal to call each other brothers or big brothers or small brothers, depending on the soldier's age and superiority. Ryan is a mid-2nd order soldier. Just like Harry, he was also a knight. Harry and Ryan became soldiers around the time when the Istran Empire had managed to defeat the Zulux dynasty's king and take over the entire Zulux dynasty. Normally it's impossible for both of them to reach the Second Order within just 8 or 9 months. And given their financial conditions, they can't afford any cultivation resources. If they hadn't joined the military, both of them would have either become farmers or would have chosen some other profession in the capital. I am looking for the ring that I bought for my wife. But I can't find it anywhere. I remember I put it in my pocket. But now it's gone. When Istran troops arrived at the Hephaestus Kingdom, they had stopped for a few hours and were allowed to roam around the city. Ryan had found a nice ring. He had spent his 8 months' salary on buying that ring for his wife whom he had married around a month ago. At their wedding, he didn't get the chance to give her anything special because he was mostly busy with work and didn't have time to shop. And their wedding was rushed. So he thought of compensating her with this ring, but now it was gone. Carefully check. Where you have put the ring? Harry frowned after hearing Ryan's words. He can guess that the ring must have cost him a lot if Ryan is looking that desperate and panicked. Ryan belonged to a middle-class joint family. After he married, he moved out to the capital as he worked there and wanted to be with his wife. And as soldiers of the Istran Empire, Ryan received discounts on rent and daily commodities. So with his income, he and his wife were able to live a very comfortable life in the capital. Ryan had used his 8 months of salary to buy a ring for his wife. If he loses the ring, then he won't have enough money to buy anything for his wife for the next few months. I have checked everything 6 times already. Ryan replied in a desperate and panicked tone. Brother, when was the last time you saw the ring? Harry asked. The last time I saw the ring was when I was in front of the restaurant. Ryan stopped speaking as he realized something. On his way, a few soldiers from the Hephaestus Kingdom came up to him and offered to treat him to a meal. Even though he refused, they kept insisting and wouldn't let off his hand. It was them. Ryan then realized that those soldiers had tricked him. They took the ring from him when he was distracted. They must have seen him buying the ring earlier. At the same time, a few soldiers happened to walk by. Ryan immediately recognized them. Rogers, you better return my ring to me, otherwise I am going to complain about this to your superior and get you punished, Ryan said in a loud, angry tone, attracting the attention of the nearby soldiers from both sides. The 5 feet 5 inches tall, Rogers stopped. Behind him, his lackeys also stopped. Both of them licked Rogers' boots to survive in the military and outside. Ryan, is that you? Rogers acted surprised seeing Ryan. Brother, I hope you liked the meal. You left so early without finishing everything. Next time, I will take you to a better restaurant. Rogers intentionally spoke in a loud tone which further attracted more attention. Stop with your nonsense, you bastard. And return my ring. Normally Ryan is an easygoing guy who can get along with pretty much everyone. But when he is pissed, he becomes a different person. Return your ring? Brother, you have forgotten that this is my ring from the beginning? Rogers took out a silver ring from his pocket and showed it to everyone. He was making it look as if Ryan was lying there. But the soldiers from the Istran Empire believed in Ryan. They knew that Hephaestus Kingdom's soldiers had questionable characters. Someone once said that never judge a book by its cover, but here their appearances perfectly matched their personalities. They were dressed like local thugs and their personalities matched their dresses. By now, this had created a big commotion. Almost all of the soldiers were looking in their direction. The knights were almost ready to fight. If Rogers kept doing this, a fight was surely going to break out. Every knight here knew Ryan and knew his character. Ryan was a good and honest man. He wasn't the type who would lie and cause a commotion. Also, every knight from the Istran Empire held certain hate for the Hephaestus soldiers. As from their arrival, they have been doing all of sorts things to them which had pushed their endurance to the very limit. If not for their captain personally telling them to not respond, all the Hephaestus soldiers would have been dead by now. You took me to the restaurant. While you kept me distracted, one of your lackeys took my ring. Ha ha ha. I remember now. Suddenly Rogers laughed. He realized in this situation, lying won't help him. The tension in the atmosphere had reached its peak. The Hephaestus soldiers disliked the Isteran soldiers as because of the Isteran Empire, their king had forced them to head to war. They were dissatisfied that their king Aditya had declared war. The Hephaestus soldiers had gotten used to the easy life and easy salary. Now they were taking their anger out on the Isteran soldiers. Aside from that, they were also jealous of the Isteran soldiers. Compared to them, the Isteran soldiers looked like rich merchants. Their bodies were covered in armor. They had powerful and expensive weapons. And they were strong, the Hephaestus soldiers had neither of those. At the same time, the commanders of both sides noticed this. By now Aditya and Fabian also had stopped talking and were observing the situation with their enhanced senses. Since this is your first time here in the Hephaestus kingdom, let me tell you something. In this kingdom, whatever we take isn't considered stealing. Now that I have this ring belongs to me. You're going too far. Ryan gritted his teeth in anger. I was planning on giving this ring to your mother. As soon as these words came out of Roger's mouth, he felt a gust of wind before he loud slap landed on his right cheek and put him to the ground. Bang! How dare you? Ryan had completely lost it. He sat on the ground and started punching Rogers in the face. You dare to attack one of our own kind in front of us. Kill him. The Hephaestus soldiers rushed at Ryan. Seeing this, Henry looked at the Hephaestus kingdom's general and asked. I will stop them. However, just as Henry stepped forward, he found an arm stopping his path. Let them be. It wouldn't be right if the superiors got into the small matters of our juniors. Let me resolve this. The Hephaestus kingdom's general was clearly enjoying this. He had a small smile on his face. Hearing this, Henry's face became colder. Since the beginning, he had held his troops back. But there is a limit to everything. These dogs won't shut up unless a few of them dies. Since the Hephaestus kingdom's general was telling him to no interfere, Henry did not move. But seeing Ryan getting attacked, the knights were the first ones to attack. Following the knights, the Dragonians joined the brawl. Though not every Dragonian joined the fight. In 30 seconds, in front of the powerful Isteran troops, the Hephaestus kingdom's soldiers were brutally getting beaten. The remaining Hephaestus soldier did nothing but stand there and watch their subordinates and colleagues get beaten. They looked like they were watching movies. The smiles on their faces proved this. Seeing his soldiers getting beaten, Hephaestus kingdom's general's face became ugly. He quickly turned to Henry and asked. Sir Henry, please stop them. Before he never addressed Henry this respectfully. How can I stop them? As someone said that seniors shouldn't interfere in the small matters of the juniors. Hearing these words, he felt as if he has been slapped by Henry. He felt his face burning in shame and embarrassment. Your Majesty, shouldn't we stop them? Even the Hephaestus king did not like his troops. In fact, he was happy seeing these arrogant thug-looking bastards getting beaten up. This was clearly their fault. Let these pigs enjoy their sweet massages for a few more minutes. None of the soldiers used any mana to attack. They used their fists and legs to attack. And their attacks were life-threatening either. What's happening here? Really, thank you very much to all those who send support with What's happening here? Using Dragon Transfer, Aditya arrived. Seeing what was happening, he was left stunned. Aditya knew that his troops weren't thugs or types of soldiers who would beat their own ally soldiers without a good reason. Every Isteran soldier is trained to follow orders and be well-mannered. When a recruit starts his journey, the first thing that he is taught is, you represent the Isteran Empire. You must be mindful of your actions and your behavior as you represent the Isteran Empire. Bang! Seeing the fight between both sides was showing no sign of stopping and was getting worse, Aditya decided to intervene. As the fight continued, all the soldiers stopped as they felt the night sky getting brighter. Glancing up, they soon saw a huge fireball above them. Seeing the fireball, all the Isteran troops stopped fighting. Their attention was drawn to Aditya, who was standing in the air above them. Stop fighting. Otherwise, I will personally punish you. Even the soldiers of the Hephaestus kingdom obeyed Aditya's order. Aditya landed next to Henry and asked. What happened here? Henry proceeded to explain everything that the Hephaestus soldiers have been doing ever since they came here. The more Henry spoke, the uglier Hephaestus kingdom's general's face became, as all of this was his fault for failing to discipline the troops under him. Normally he wouldn't care if Henry had said these words to Aditya, but this was the Isteran Emperor. He has long heard of the Isteran Emperor and knows that, unlike Aditya, Aditya won't hesitate to end everyone's lives. After listening to Henry's words, Aditya turned to the troops who now had separated into two groups. On the right side, the Isteran troops were standing in order. While on the left, the Hephaestus soldiers were standing in disorder. Some of them were sitting on the ground and were groaning in pain. Who are you? Aditya asked while slowly walking towards the Hephaestus soldiers. Hearing his cold tone, the Hephaestus soldiers unconsciously straightened their backs. Hearing his question, no reply was heard. Are you soldiers or are you thugs from the streets? Even though the Hephaestus soldiers felt insulted, none of them dared to say anything. They silently accepted his words. Meanwhile, Aditya continued to step toward them. Fat stomachs, yellow teeths, dirty clothes, long, dirty, and disheveled hair. Is this how a soldier is supposed to present himself? Seeing Aditya getting near them, the ones that previously sat on the ground stood up. How do you guys plan on fighting without any weapon? How do you guys plan on surviving without any armor? Do you think the battlefield is a playground? Aditya slowly released a little bit of his killing intent on the Hephaestus soldiers. His killing intent, immediately the faces of all the soldiers turned pale and drops of sweat began to fall from their faces. Their hands and legs started shaking in fear. Tap. 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 Aditya walked in front of Rogers, who was standing at the front. Rogers's entire body was shaking in fear. The dragon monarch looked at all the Hephaestus soldiers before looking at Rogers. He came near Rogers and said in a whispering tone, "I can kill you all before you guys can birth your next thoughts." At that moment, looking into those deep crimson eyes that seems to contain the blood of millions in them, Rogers felt his very soul tremble in fear. Aditya stretched out his right hand in silence. Rogers understood what he needed to do. He took out the ring that was the source of all of this. Aditya took the ring and called Ryan. "Your Majesty, I apologize." The Hephaestus king felt very embarrassed because of his soldiers. On behalf of the soldiers, the king apologized to the Istran emperor so that the Istran soldiers won't hold any more grudges towards the Hephaestus soldiers. "There is no need to apologize, Sir Aditya. I fully know about the situation in your kingdom." Aditya put his hand on Aditya's right shoulder to comfort him. "As soon as this war ends, the Istran Empire will clean all the mess within the Hephaestus kingdom. This is a promise." Aditya can understand why Hephaestus king joined them. He is grateful that Hephaestus king joined them even though the kingdom's condition was really worse. And they weren't in a position to fight another kingdom, much less an empire. Aditya had planned to help Aditya with his kingdom. Hearing this, Aditya slightly became emotional. He tried his best to not show it on his face. "Thank you." The Hephaestus king thanked Aditya from the bottom of his heart. Aditya just nodded his head. "Everyone, let's move forward. I can sense the enemy troops." Aditya can sense that the enemy troops had a mid-5th order cultivator. However, once again the Hephaestus soldiers started causing trouble. "I am not going." Aditya, Aditya, Fabian, and others looked at the soldier. The other Hephaestus soldiers moved out of the way. "Do you think this is a field trip?" Aditya angrily asked. "I am not going to fight for you unless you pay me my pending wages." "Yeah, I am also not going to the battlefield unless you pay us our wages. It has been 6 months since I got any salary." Joining the soldier, the other Hephaestus soldiers also started protesting. This made Aditya further embarrassed. To think his own soldiers would do something like this right when the fight is about to begin made Aditya very embarrassed in front of Aditya. It was not Aditya's fault that he failed to pay the soldiers' salaries. Because of the gangs, there was barely any income. The people prioritized paying protection fees to the gangs rather than paying taxes to the kingdom. And almost all of the government officials were corrupt and kept most of the revenue money for themselves. Aditya thought for a second before speaking. "The Istran Empire will pay all of your pending salaries after this fight." Hearing this, all the Hephaestus soldiers were very happy. The Istran Empire was one of the richest empires in the whole continent. Paying their salaries would be very a small thing for the Istran Empire. "Sir Aditya, you don't have to." Aditya didn't want to burden Aditya with such a small matter. "It's all right." Aditya waved his hand before speaking to the Hephaestus soldiers. "Now start moving if you want your pending salaries to be paid." None of the Hephaestus soldiers complained this time. They silently followed the Istran soldiers and headed toward the northern border of the Hephaestus kingdom. "Henry, take the lead. I will take care of the 5th order and the 4th order cultivators." "Sir Aditya, I hope you won't mind if Henry takes the lead. Henry has fought multiple wars and has experience in leading troops." As for the nameless general of the Hephaestus kingdom, Aditya completely ignored him. He was good for nothing. Even though the Hephaestus general appeared to be a beginner 4th order, Aditya felt even a peak 3rd order soldier from his empire can defeat this man. "Of course, I don't mind." Aditya wasn't experienced in leading troops into the battlefield. Henry was more suited for this role, and Aditya did not mind Aditya giving this role to Henry. As they approached the northern border of the Hephaestus kingdom, they saw the enemy troops were waiting for them. The enemy had bought exactly 500,000 troops with them, while the Istran Empire and the Hephaestus kingdom had bought 600,000 troops. Both sides had almost the exact number of magic cannons. Aditya sent magic cannons along with other necessities when he sent 500,000 of his troops to the Hephaestus kingdom. He knew that given the poor condition of the kingdom, there is no way the kingdom would possess powerful siege weapons that could compare against the enemy empire. Aditya let Aditya and Henry stand in front and face the enemy commander, who appeared to be very young. Aditya stood in the second row and observed the enemy. "Sir Aditya, do you know the enemy commander?" Anyone can tell by looking at the enemy general that he is someone of high status. His background must be extraordinary. He can tell this from the luxurious clothes that he was wearing. There were 4 guards standing around the generals. One can tell that these 4 guards were sent here to protect him. He is the 4th son of the Mythia emperor, if I am not wrong. His name is Hamza. Aditya proceeded to give more information on Hamza. Hamza is the youngest son of the Mythia emperor. Around a month ago, Hamza turned 18. After turning 18, the Mythia emperor gave him the rank of a general along with 10,000 troops. The emperor did this so that his youngest son can gain experience in battles and war. I wasn't expecting the Emperor to send someone this inexperienced to lead his troops. I don't know what he is thinking. Aditya shook his head. In his opinion, this was a very stupid move. Just looking at his face, one can see that arrogance and pride were in his bones. He was born with a diamond spoon in his mouth. He is one of those good-for-nothing useless nobles. However, Aditya thought differently. I think the Emperor wants his son to gain experience and earn a reputation from this war. Obviously, they didn't expect the Eastern Empire to send 500,000 of its troops using the teleportation array. They thought with just 500,000 troops they can easily take the Hephaestus Empire. Aditya's words were on the spot. When Hamza saw an army larger than his army, his confidence began to crumble. At first, he wondered where King Aditya has managed to bring this many troops. After all, reports said that King Aditya had around 100,000 useless troops that he can easily defeat. But these troops did not look anything but useless. Useless my ass. These troops look even more trained than my own army. But then Hamza saw the flag of the Eastern Empire. How did the Eastern Empire's troops come here this fast? By logic, it should at least take 2 to 3 weeks to come from the eastern region to the northwestern region. Unless the Eastern Empire used a teleportation array, but that would cost them a huge sum of money. Just thinking how much money it must have cost the Eastern Empire to send their troops here, made Hamza's heart ache in pain. So much money was wasted. He couldn't understand what good will happen by saving a good-for-nothing kingdom. There is no need to fear. I have a mid-5th order cultivator by my side. Nothing can go wrong. Thinking this, Hamza regained his lost confidence. Really, thank you very much to all those who sent. Meanwhile, in the Mythia Empire, the Mythia Emperor looked very relaxed and happy. There is a reason for his happiness. And that is the reason is the promise that he got from the Echo Nexus Emperor, Lucas. As long as the Mythia Empire manages to bring all of the Hephaestus Kingdom's territory under its control after the war ends, the Mythia Empire will be allowed to keep a large portion of the Hephaestus Kingdom's territory under its control. Hearing this made Caden Green very happy. For a long time, Green has been wanting to expand his empire towards the south. As long as the Hephaestus Empire falls under his control, he would be able to multiply his empire's total revenue by almost 3 to 4 times. To him, the Hephaestus Empire is a treasure that is still unexplored. Your Majesty, what would you like to drink? Just like the Mystic Spring Empire, the Mythia Empire had an artifact that allowed them to see what was happening on the battlefield. Watching his son lead the 500,000, Green felt very proud. His mischievous son had finally grown up. Bring me the milk wine that you previously bought from the Beast Continent. The milk wine is very famous in the Beast Continent and among the Beast race. Humans or races mostly don't like milk wine because of its smell. But Green found no problem in drinking milk wine. In fact, he enjoyed milk wine very much. The Prime Minister was about to call someone to bring His Majesty milk wine when a servant came up to him with a letter in his hand. Seeing the silver color of the envelope, Green immediately realized that this letter has been sent by Lucas himself. Green immediately took the letter. Green, this is an emergency. The first battle has just ended and the result was completely unexpected. The Mystic Spring Empire has lost. More than 500,000 troops were killed. The Eastern Emperor has used the teleportation array to 500,000 troops to the battlefield. I am starting to feel that Aditya has sent his troops to all the battlefields. You must take proper precautions before the battle starts. Reading this, Green was completely shocked. He gasped as he tried to count how much gold coin it would cost Aditya to send 500,000 troops using a teleportation array. The price of mana stones is always increasing. For 500,000 troops it must have taken around 100,000 mana stones or maybe even more. Green's heart nearly stopped as he realized that the Eastern Empire has spent around 10 million royal gold coins just to send 500,000 of his troops. If Aditya is crazy enough to do the same with other battlefields, then the number will still increase. 40 million royal gold coins is not a small joke. 40 million royal gold coins are 4 billion gold coins. Even Mythia Empire would go broke if he spent 4 billion gold coins. This isn't important right now. This means that instead of 100,000 troops, my son will have to face 600,000 troops. I have to stop him. Green was about to order someone to bring the message to his son to retreat immediately, but it was too late as the words on his throat got stuck seeing the army of the Eastern Empire and the Hephaestus Kingdom. If the calamity is also here, then we are fucked. I can forget about my son. The Mythia Emperor was panicking. He knew that his son was in a life and death situation. He had to do something, but there wasn't enough time. Even a peak 5th order cultivator won't be able to reach up to his son in time. Scene change _____. The second battle had finally started. Under the command of the generals, both sides charged at each other. The archers fired their arrows. The magic cannons launched explosive cannonballs. Things became heated. While everyone was fighting, Aditya kept his attention on the mid-5th order cultivator. Silas was completely relaxed even though he was on a battlefield. The reason he was so relaxed is that the enemy didn't have any powerful cultivators that could stop him. While humming a song, he grabbed a dragonian by his throat and lifted him up in the air using his right arm. You have the aura of dragon, but you're weak as an insect. Pathetic. Silas was about to end the dragonian's life when a small cut appeared on his right arm. Silas looked at the cut in confusion. But that confusion turned into horror as he saw that cut slowly expanding. What appeared to be a cut turned out to be the place from where his right arm was severed. Ah! As his right arm fell to the ground, Silas grabbed his arm and screamed in deep pain. The Dragonian fell to the ground. He stood up and wondered who saved him, only to see Aditya standing behind Silas. Seeing Aditya, he left things at the Dragon Monarch's hands and focused on taking down other soldiers. Meanwhile, Silas turned around and looked at the person who just did this time. What a speed! I couldn't even see him when he cut my arm. He is strong. Too strong for me to even stand in front of him. Silas realized the power gap between them. Silas saw a young boy whose entire body was surrounded by crimson lightning. 7 orbs of crimson flame were floating behind him. Rumble. At the same time, the sky started to darken. You're Aditya. Silas never thought that his luck would be so bad that he would meet Aditya here. Die. Aditya wasn't interested in wasting his time talking with this dude. There wasn't anything interesting about this man. He wore plain black clothes. He was 5 feet 4 inches tall and had a muscular body. He had black hair and black eyes. The 7 crimson flame orbs behind Aditya shot toward Silas. The attack reached Silas before he could even think of dodging it. The next second Silas found his entire body covered in crimson flame. Normal flames wouldn't affect a mid-5th order cultivator like him. But the crimson flame was the most powerful flame in this world. Feeling himself being burned alive, Silas screamed in agony. But within 10 seconds his screams faded as his body turned into ash. Ding! You have killed a mid-5th order cultivator. Your experience points have been saved for future use. Seeing this, Aditya wondered if he would use some experience points to directly jump to beginner 4th order. He was really close to reaching that level. But he decided not to level up. He wasn't in a hurry nor he was desperate. He wasn't in any need of power or strength. He wanted to take some time to discover the limits of his current powers. As Silas died, Hamza was the first one to notice it. Unlike Henry who fought along with the Istran and Hephaestus soldiers, Hamza was sitting on a luxurious chair with 4 powerful guards surrounding him and protecting him. They made sure nothing happened to Hamza who was their master. No way. Is he? Hamza has been long warned about a certain person by his father before he came here. His father told him as soon as he saw crimson lightning or crimson flame or saw the sky darkening for no reason, he needs to run as far as possible. Because the calamity was here. Gulp. I have to run. The previous arrogance from Hamza's face completely disappeared. Hamza quickly ordered his guards to carry him out of this place. Like a woman, Hamza was being carried away by one of his guards while the other 3 followed him and made sure no one landed any attack on the 4th prince. Aditya didn't know but the Mythia emperor called Aditya the Calamity. He was a walking army capable of destroying an empire with his own powers. Meanwhile, Mythia emperor saw how easily Silas died at Aditya's hand. At this moment, his entire body was shaking. The crown from his head had fallen to the ground. The emperor who controlled the lives of millions and had the strength to conquer any land on this continent was looking very desperate and helpless. At this moment he was praying to every single god and goddess that he can think of. He wanted a miracle to happen. He wanted a miracle to save his son's life from the calamity. Aditya saw Hamza running away. He wasn't letting that going to happen. So Aditya slowly started chasing after Hamza. He purposely kept a distance from Hamza as he wanted to see and keep enjoying that frightened look on his face. Meanwhile, Aditya and others noticed that Aditya already has killed Silas. As the mid-5th order cultivator from the enemy side died, this served as a morale boost from the Istran and Hephaestus army. They now didn't need to fear a mid-5th order attacking them. Really, thank you very much to move faster. Hamza shouted in a panicked tone as he watched Aditya calmly chasing them. No matter how fast they moved, Aditya was right behind them. Anyone who tried to get in Aditya's way or anything that tried to block his path was instantly destroyed. The 4 guards felt very helpless. The fact that he can kill Silas within a few seconds speaks of his terrifying power. Among the 4 guards, one of the guards was carrying Hamza and was running at the front. The other 3 guards purposely remained behind to watch over and attack Aditya if he managed to catch up to them. Even though they can't defeat someone who can kill a mid-5th order cultivation within a few seconds, they hoped that their sacrifices would let their lord escape. Where he did go? One of the guards wondered as he couldn't spot Aditya anywhere behind them. The guard looked to his right and then looked to his left to see if he can find Aditya. No, he is. The guard realized where Aditya could be. As his eyes turned around at lightning speed, a black sword severed his head from the rest of his body and sent his head flying in the air. The guard suddenly found himself flying in the air. His eyes managed to spot Aditya who was standing in front of his body. The red demon was shrouded in crimson lightning. His cold and emotionless crimson eyes were the last thing he saw before losing consciousness. Ding! You have a peak 4th order cultivator. Your experience points have been saved. The speed of a peak 4th order cultivator was very fast. But it was not enough. The next moment when Hamza looked back to see where Aditya was, he was horrified to see the 3 dead bodies lying far behind them. The next moment the guard who was carrying Hamza also stopped. Hamza turned around. The moment he turned his head around, the size of his pupils contracted to the size of a needle as he stared at the red demon. For a peak 4th order cultivator, you're very fast. Faster than more average peak 4th order cultivators. That's very impressive. Unfortunately, it's time to die. Aditya wasn't here to recruit anyone into his military. Young master, you must run. Don't stop running until you reach the nearest city. I will try to hold him back. The guard was raised and trained for Hamza's protection. He wouldn't hesitate to give up his life to protect Hamza. Hamza cautiously stared at Aditya as he slowly stepped back. When he was around 15 meters from Aditya, he started running at full speed without looking back. Do you really think that your young master can escape from me? Aditya put his sword on his right shoulder and asked with a smile. The guard did not reply. He looked back and saw his young master running without even looking back. Looking at Aditya, he finally spoke. Even if there is a 1% chance of young master surviving, it's worth it. What if I kill that young master of yours without moving and right in front of your eyes? The guard narrowed his eyes. Aditya pointed his black sword towards Hamza, who was running in a straight line. Don't you dare. The guard couldn't finish when he heard a loud crimson lightning bolt falling from the sky. Boom. His pupils dilated when he found Hamza lying dead on the ground. The crimson lightning had turned his entire body into an unrecognizable black piece of meat. See, it was easy as that. Aditya spoke as if it was not a big deal. But seeing the death of the very same whom he has been taught to protect no matter the cost, the last remaining guard broke down. From a young age, he and the other guards have been brainwashed to follow Hamza and protect him no matter the cost. Now that he had failed, he suddenly felt that his life had become meaningless. He had lost his purpose. I kill you. The mix of anger, sadness, frustration, disappointment, and vast emptiness in his heart influenced his mind. In a rage, he rushed towards Aditya and tried to kill him. Unfortunately, you're too weak to achieve that. No hard feelings. Aditya said as he severed the head of the last guard. Ding. You have a peak 4th order cultivator. Your experience points have been saved. It's over. The Mythia Emperor sat on the ground as he saw the death of his own son. The Emperor had lost one of his precious sons. The Emperor dearly loved his sons more than his daughters. Now that he had lost one of his children, as a father it hurt him more than any other loss in this world. And as an emperor, he lost one of his potential successors. The pain was just too big for the emperor to take in. He was in pain. Tears dropped from his eyes. The mighty and proud emperor couldn't escape the emotional tangles of this world and had broken down just like any other intelligent being would. This was the ugly side of the war. People from two sides are bound to die. The only people that hope that makes a profit from war are the people that stand at the very top of society and the social power structure. In this age and world, these people are usually the kings, monarchs, and emperors. My dear son, your bravery shall be remembered by the people of Mythia. As long as I am alive, I am never going to let your name be forgotten. I will return this pain to the Eastern Emperor by taking the lives of 10,000. I will not let your death become meaningless. Before the Mythia Emperor saw this war be unnecessary war. He felt the Echo Nexus Emperor was just using them to deal with the Eastern Empire and eliminate a powerhouse that could potentially overthrow them in the future. But now, by killing his son, Aditya had just taken things to the personal level. The Emperor looked at his Prime Minister as a dark and gloomy aura surrounded the Emperor. Send someone to retrieve my son's body. Today will be remembered as a black day. Today, we not only lost 500,000 soldiers but we also lost the 4th prince. Today is one of the darkest days of the Mythia Empire. For the next 7 days, any form of celebrations or festivals within the Mythia Empire will be banned to mourn the death of the 4th prince. Any kind of entertainment, whether it's bars or love hotels or prostitute centers, will remain closed. Understood. Today, public announcements will be made in every city, every town, and every village. Those who break the rule, kill them. Tell the soldiers and the nobles to not show any mercy. If anyone is found that they are showing mercy or not doing their work properly, that person will be tortured in the ice chamber for 7 days and then will be publicly executed. Hearing the last sentence, the Prime Minister shuddered in fear. The ice chamber is a special torturing chamber. Those who get tortured in that chamber get broken spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. The torture was so intense that it was worse than death. It was common for the prisoners who has been sent to the ice chamber to take their own lives as they feared the ice chamber even more than death. One more thing, write a letter to Lucas and tell him everything that happened. Mythia Emperor said in an exhausted and tired tone. The man just lost his son. He wasn't emotionally well enough to write a letter to Lucas. So he asked his Prime Minister to take his job. But your Majesty, the battle is still going on. That doesn't matter. We already have lost. Do you really think that 500,000 troops can stop Aditya? Hearing the loud words of the Emperor, the Prime Minister lowered his head. He also realized that there was no more hope left. They had lost this battle. Their losses were too big this time. Alright. Scene change ____________. After a few minutes as the battle started, everyone noticed something strange. The soldiers of the Hephaestus Kingdom couldn't keep up with other soldiers. The Hephaestus Kingdom's troops were slow, some of them were fat, they had very low endurance, and most importantly, unlike other soldiers, almost all of them didn't bring any weapon or armor with them. It is not that they didn't want to bring any weapons with them, it's just that they had sold their weapons thinking that there never will come a day when they would need to use weapons. This is also one of the reasons why the soldiers were angry with their king for joining this war. This war had disturbed their peaceful lives. Before they worked with gangs and earned some extra gold coins and lived a very fulfilling life. The soldiers stood above the common class people. Within the common class, becoming a soldier meant becoming rich, powerful, and wealthy. None of them were prepared to go to a war. Really, thank you very much to all those who The soldiers of the Mythia Emperor had no idea what happened to their general. The death of their mid-5th order cultivator Silas had shattered their morales. Even though Hamza was their commander in this battle, he failed to gain the soldiers' respect. Instead, Silas was more popular than Hamza among the soldiers and everyone respected him more than they did Hamza. The reason the soldiers even tolerated Hamza's arrogant behavior and allowed him to do whatever he wanted to do is because he was the son of the current emperor and he could potentially become the next emperor. So seeing the death of Silas had a bigger impact than it did seeing Hamza running away with his 4 guards. Once the morale of the soldiers broke down, they lost their will to fight. The energy shifted in favor of the Eastern army. But not in favor of the Hephaestus soldiers who couldn't win against the Mythia Empire's soldiers who constantly trained themselves, had better equipment, and kept themselves in shape, unlike the Hephaestus soldiers. Even though the Mythia Empire was losing, the Hephaestus soldiers were getting killed the most. And after what the Hephaestus soldiers did to the Istaran soldiers, no one from the Istaran Empire tried to save any of the Hephaestus soldiers from the enemy. The Istaran troops ignored them and continued with their fights. Even though Aditya has made them stop fighting among themselves, the hate between the soldiers of the two allies still existed. Fortunately, Aditya returned in the 6th minute. His return immediately shifted the scale of the power. Aditya was that level 100 player who had been put on a battlefield full of level 10 players. His very existence was a cheat code for his allies. Just as Aditya appeared, chaos began taking place. Loud explosions and crimson lightning bolts shook the entire battlefield. He became the center of focus. Magma manipulation. Is it me or do you also find that the ground beneath us is strangely getting hotter? Asked one Mythia Empire's troops. It's not just you. Their leather shoes began burning. Not just theirs, but other soldiers also had similar experiences. Crack. Boom. Large and small cracks appeared on the ground. From the sky, magma started flowing out. Many soldiers couldn't get away in time as magma surrounded them from all sides. Within a few or two, the magma completely consumed them. Ding. You have killed a peak 2nd order cultivator. Your experience point has been saved. Ding. You have killed a peak 1st order cultivator. Your experience point has been saved. Ding. You have killed a beginner 1st order cultivator. Your experience point has been saved. Ding. You have killed a peak 2nd order cultivator. Your experience point has been saved. Ding. You have killed a. Aditya ignored the buzzing sound coming from the system and continued to slaughter the enemy soldiers. Aditya's attack had reduced the number of enemies by almost 80,000. He was about to use another of his skill when he sensed someone approaching. Thinking that approaching a person is an enemy, he decided to kill that person first. But when Aditya turned around, he found a beautiful female soldier kneeling in front of him. This humble servant greets the dragon monarch. The woman said, making Aditya surprised. After all, he always kept his bloodline suppressed, meaning that unless someone is extremely sensitive to another bloodline, no one would be able to know that Aditya is a dragon. And the fact that Aditya is the dragon monarch is not known by many people. After all, he never went ahead and proclaimed himself as the dragon monarch. Who are you? Aditya asked, seeing the woman kneeling before him. He can tell that this woman was also a dragon. He can sense a dragon bloodline in her. My name is Mila. Mila MacDonald. Mila has blue eyes and hair that falls down to her waist when untied. She is rather short and has a modest chest. Mila ties her hair to chin length with a white ribbon that extends to her knees. Mila's regal uniform is blue and exposes her belly button, and her skirt is semi-transparent, see-through, which reveals her light blue underwear. What do you want? Aditya did not forget that this woman was still from the enemy side. My clan has been looking for you ever since your bloodline evolved during the Goblin invasion. Mila and her clan are a powerful noble clan within the Mythia Empire. Her clan has a special dragon bloodline in them. Mila and her clan members possess the Ice Lotus Dragon bloodline. The Ice Lotus Dragon bloodline is one of the rarest Ice-type dragon bloodlines. Now that I have found the Dragon Monarch, we, the Ice Lotus Dragon clan, wish to serve you and follow you forever. Ice Lotus Dragon? This is the first time I am meeting a dragon with ice nature affinity. Aditya thought in his head. Why did you join the army? Aditya couldn't help but ask. If Mila's clan is so powerful, then surely her clan must possess a certain reputation and political power. Aditya refused to believe that the Ice Lotus Dragon clan didn't have any political power or influence in the Mythia Empire. And why someone from such an influential and powerful clan would join the military? My king, I recently joined the military because my clan wanted me to gain experience from working as a soldier. There is another reason why Mila joined the military. It was because, before joining the military, as the youngest member of the Ice Lotus Dragon clan, she was very naughty and mischievous in nature. She was uncontrolled and disorderly. She had no discipline. She did not cultivate or train properly. Mila's parents and the clan elders were tired of this. Unable to endure it anymore, after Mila made a mistake, she was punished to serve in the military for a year. It only has been 5 months since Mila joined the Mythia Empire's military. The Ice Lotus Dragon clan's patriarch, who was Mila's father, personally wrote a letter to the emperor and asked him to let her join the military. Mila's father requested the emperor to keep Mila's identity a secret. Meaning that unless she was in a life and death situation, she wasn't allowed to use any of her dragon powers. Of course, Mila couldn't tell this to Aditya as she was too embarrassed to say it to the Dragon Monarch. Staying in the military drastically changed Mila. She had now become calmer, more disciplined, and hardworking. Joining me will mean that you and your clan will have to betray the Mythia Empire. Are you prepared to betray the very place that you and your clansmen have called home for years? Aditya also wanted to ask how Mila was able to tell that he was the Dragon Monarch. After he had suppressed his divine blood. This meant Mila either had extraordinary other bloodline sensing ability or she had a unique artifact capable of finding his dragon bloodline. She did not waste a single second to reply. Yes, we are prepared. Ever since we heard the news of a divine dragon being born, we have been preparing to leave the Mythia Empire and join the Dragon Monarch. Her clan had stopped their businesses in the Mythia Empire. They had to be careful to not alert anyone about their plan so they didn't hastily take action. Aditya looked behind Mila and saw that after his magma attack, almost all of the soldiers from the Mythia Empire side has started running away. Stand behind me. We can talk about this after I am done with them. Mila did as Aditya asked and stood behind. I guess it's time to use Acid Rain. It has been a while since I used this skill. Acid Rain. Pitter. Pitter. It started to rain. But strangely enough, the rain did not touch the battlefield. Instead, it fell around the battlefield. The Mythia Empire's soldiers already had left the battlefield, suddenly their bodies started burning and melting upon coming into contact with the raindrop. Their skins, armor, and even some low-quality weapons began to melt. Within a few seconds, thousands of fleeing soldiers had died from their entire bodies burned in acid rain. Compared to normal acid rain, this acid rain was many times strong and was capable enough to kill even a peak third order. Seeing the soldiers in the rain dying like that, the ones that followed them behind immediately stopped and stood away from the rain. The rain was like a barrier that can kill them upon contact. What the hell is this? They knew that this was probably done by Aditya. Meanwhile, Mile, who was standing behind Aditya, was in awe watching this. The admiration that she had for Aditya only increased. What a power! The Emperor summoned a ring of crimson flame around him and Mila. He then created a second ring of crimson flame above the first ring. He then made the third ring of crimson flame. The ring of crimson flame was 20 meters in radius. What is he trying to do now? She has long heard that Aditya used crimson flames. Seeing the Dragon Monarch fight with her own eyes, it was very special. Really, thank you very much to all those who sensed. The Emperor summoned a ring of crimson flame around him and Mila. He then created a second ring of crimson flame above the first ring. He then made the third ring of crimson flame. The ring of crimson flame was 20 meters in radius. What is he trying to do now? She has long heard that Aditya used crimson flames. Seeing the Dragon Monarch fight with her own eyes, was very special. Even with her cultivation powers, she had begun to sweat just from being near one of the rings of the crimson flame. Aditya went ahead and created the fourth and fifth rings of crimson flame. Each one is bigger than the previous one. Each ring of crimson flame was rotating like a wheel at a very fast pace. The rotational speed kept on increasing till the crimson flames started taking the shape of something that looked like a tornado. It was a crimson flame tornado. Ouch, my god. Mila covered her mouth in shock. Being inside the crimson flame tornado, she can sense the true power that this tornado had. Looking at Aditya's face, the Dragon Monarch looked completely fine. He was very calm. From this, Mila can guess that creating an attack of that caliber is really easy for him. Gradually the size of the tornado increased as Aditya kept pouring more of his mana into the crimson flame. Around 10 seconds later, the whole battlefield had become silent. Everyone had stopped fighting and had their eyes set on the giant tornado that was over 300 feet, 91 meters. I can't even imagine how much mana it must have taken to create something so big and powerful. So this is nothing but a fraction of the power that the Dragon Monarch possesses. The respect that Mila had for Aditya grew. She began to admire him even more. Looking at his back, her eyes felt attracted to the Dragon Monarch. Even though she knew that it was wrong to have such feelings and thought for the Dragon Monarch, she just couldn't help it. She was drawn to his strength and power. Meanwhile, others on the battlefield had a very different kind of reaction. When the Hephaestus Kingdom's soldiers saw the giant 91 meters tall tornado in the middle of the battlefield, they began to sweat, feeling nervous. I can't believe we tried to mess with someone who can do this. Thankfully we didn't anger him, otherwise, we would have been turned to ash. Especially Rogers and his lackeys looked really frightened. Meanwhile, the Istran soldiers were feeling of pride seeing this. And as for the Mythia Empire soldiers, they were terrified. Their current expressions were worth looking. A few of them directly fainted seeing this. While the rest that did not run away and instead kept fighting with the enemy instantly lost their will and courage to continue this fight. Mythia Empire soldiers, you all have two options, give up or get turned to ash by my crimson flame. Aditya's voice was heard all over the battlefield. Hearing the Dragon Monarch's words, the Mythia Empire's soldiers did not even hesitate a second to drop their weapons and kneel on the ground with their hands raised in the air. Slowly the crimson tornado started disappearing as Aditya stopped feeding it mana. If Aditya had released this attack on the battlefield, it would have destroyed everyone, whether it was an ally or enemy. No one would have been spared from the destruction of this tornado attack. This attack was to show the Mythia Empire's soldiers what they were up against. Aditya wanted to break their will and courage to continue fighting. And it worked. None of the soldiers had any will to continue fighting. Capture everyone, Aditya ordered Henry. As for the troops that had fled, Aditya had taken care of them with acid rain. Only a few or dozen have managed to escape. Even if a few thousand were able successfully escaped, it still wouldn't harm Aditya or his interest in any way. He can just kill them in the next battle. While the Isteran soldiers captured the Mythia Empire's troops, the Hephaestus Kingdom's soldiers sat down on the ground and took a rest instead of helping. It was the Hephaestus Kingdom's soldiers that suffered the most in this war. Their number had been reduced to only 40,000 even though the battle only went on for less than 15 minutes. Among the 40,000 surviving soldiers, 21,000 of them had been severely injured. They had either lost an arm or leg or sustained serious injuries that had damaged their cultivation or their body to the point where they won't be able to fight anymore. Meaning their lives as a soldier was basically over from this point. And for the other 19,000, they had suffered some minor or small injuries. But they too will need to take at least 2 or 3 days of rest to recover. As for healing them with healing pills or recovery potions, Aditya didn't even think about that option, and the current Hephaestus Kingdom did not have enough funds to buy healing pills for every soldier. Why should I waste my healing pills and recovery potions on these useless donkeys? It would have been much better if all of them had died. Now they are nothing but dead weight. Aditya was planning on rebuilding the entire Hephaestus Kingdom. The first step in rebuilding the kingdom was to eliminate all of these soldiers. These soldiers have long lost the core foundations that made them a soldier in the first place. They have been corrupted. And in the future when the kingdom brings new recruits, they too will also be corrupted if these soldiers are allowed to remain in the military. Why the gangs and criminals would fear the king if his own soldiers don't respect him and follow his orders? Now let's talk. Facing Aditya, suddenly Mila started to feel a little nervous. Her heart began to beat loudly as she looked at his face. I and my clan would like to serve the Dragon Monarch. To what extent are you prepared to serve me? Aditya asked with an amused smile. He can see that this girl had a crush on him. Sorry, I don't understand your question, Mila replied. Never mind. I will turn you into a Dragonian later. For now, you can join the Isteran army and fight the Mythia Empire. Aditya carefully looked at her expression after saying those words. Mila seriously nodded her head without showing any hesitation or anything. Are you not feeling any hesitation fighting against the Mythia Empire, which is your homeland and also your birthland? You're going to be fighting against your friends and the people you know. Aditya wanted her to answer honestly. As expected, Mila looked a little uncomfortable. Before she could reply, Aditya spoke. Answer honestly. Nodding her head, and she opened her mouth. I don't have many friends. And in the military, I only have a few friends. If possible, I would like to try and make them surrender or bring them to this side. But I am sure it won't be easy to change their minds. What if your friends try to kill any Isteran soldier? What action will you take? Mila bit her lips. Her eyes showed struggle. But a second later, her eyes became firm and determined. I will kill them if that were to happen. Aditya smiled before leaving Mila alone. The girl needed some time to think. It was certainly no easy to fight a friend. Around 10 minutes later, Henry came up to Aditya to report. Your Majesty, we have captured 210,000 enemy soldiers. And after counting the dead bodies on the battlefield, I estimated that around 150,000 had died on the battlefield while the remaining has managed to flee but also has been killed by your attack. The previous attack that he used killed 81,000 soldiers. Good job, Henry. Now I want you to remain here till any further order. For now, I am going to focus on taking the Mystic Spring Empire, and then we will focus on the Mythia Empire. Aditya was planning on going after each enemy empire one by one. He was personally going to attack the empire and bring it to its knees and take control of it. The plan is really simple. Go to the enemy empire, kill the soldiers who want to fight, and capture the soldiers that want to surrender and use them in the next battle. Or somewhere along the lines. As things didn't always go as planned. Understood. Also, there is a girl named Mila. She is an Ice Lotus dragon. Henry followed Aditya's sight and found a young girl helping others in cleaning the battlefield. Mila looked lost in her thoughts. Compared to others, she was working very slowly. She looked like she was distracted. She and her clan has alleged their loyalty to me. But I don't completely trust her yet. So keep an eye on her while she is here. If she does anything suspicious, report it to me immediately. Understood, Your Majesty. I will leave everything in your hands. I will head to the next battlefield. Henry nodded and watched as Aditya walked up to Aditya. Really, thank you very much to all those. Sir Aditya, your strength is really admirable. Without you, winning this battle wouldn't have been easy for us. Aditya was respecting Aditya even more after witnessing what he was capable of. Sir Aditya, I can't spend any more time here. I will head to the other 2 remaining battlefields and help our side win the battle with the least casualties. Sir Aditya, I think it would be best if you and your Prime Minister head back to the capital. The current Hephaestus kingdom was extremely unstable. Who knows, the powerful gangs might try to take over the entire kingdom in the absence of the king. The kingdom was full of corruption and traitors. The king cannot trust anyone. And also, Aditya isn't that powerful. He is a mage. He can be easily replaced by another mage. Aditya felt Aditya and his Prime Minister wasn't that useful on the battlefield. He was too passive and soft. He can't even control his own army. It would be better if Aditya returned to the capital. If the king were to die on the battlefield, there would be a throne succession conflict in the Hephaestus kingdom. Even though Aditya had lost all of the powers and authority that a king should have, the throne of the Hephaestus kingdom was still the dream of many greedy people who wanted to rise in powers. This would create another big mess for Aditya. Aditya thought for a bit and nodded his head. Aditya has seen that General Henry was even more capable than him. Henry is more experienced and also very powerful. Alright. I will send 100 dragon warriors. You can use them to start cleaning the capital and maintain order. 100 dragon warriors would be more than clean the capital and bring order to the capital. This would be the second step towards rebuilding the Hephaestus kingdom. Thank you. Aditya thanked Aditya from the bottom of his heart. There is no need to thank me. I am a man of my word. I always keep my promise. And I always look out for my allies. Saying these words, Aditya teleported to the third battlefield. In place of Aditya, there was a young female dragonian, standing there, looking completely lost and confused about how she came here. Aditya smiled before looking at the night sky which now had cleared up. Aditya could see that beyond the dark sky, there was a bright blue sky waiting for him and for his people. Aditya felt he had made the correct decision. Even if the world were to turn its backs on the Eastern Empire, I and my kingdom will always stand beside you and support your empire. Aditya swore in this heart. Scene change _________. At the capital of the Echo Nexus Empire. The capital of the Echo Nexus Empire, Ostrance, known as the city above demigods, currently looked dead. It was as if the capital of the strongest empire had lost its glamour and its sparkle. The Ostrance city is home to 8 million people. All kinds of races lived here happily. Being the capital, the emperor made sure that Ostrance city was safe for everyone. In Ostrance, the real power belonged to the emperor. It hasn't been 24 hours since the war started. The defeat of the Mystic Spring Empire quickly spread throughout the city. Did you guys hear the news? What news? The Mythia Empire has lost to the Hephaestus kingdom. Impossible. How could Mythia Empire's troops lose to the Hephaestus kingdom? Big brother Jordan, I am not lying. Small merchants who happened to pass by the area saw how the battle ended. At that moment, it was not just the old retired soldier named Jordan who was listening to this, but also the other customers who had stopped talking and focused on listening to Axel's words. After all, everyone knew that Axel isn't the type to lie about something this big. Just like Axel, many others spread the news. From one mouth to another, within an hour or two, the news even reached the emperor's ears. Philip, what the hell is happening? A few hours ago, when he heard that the Mystic Spring Empire has been defeated, he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Lucas tried to warn the Mythia Emperor about this. But it was too late. Aditya somehow managed to arrive and change the tide of the entire battle. My apologies. I have tried to find who is spreading such news, but I still haven't been able to find the source. I don't want to hear the word impossible. There is another thing that I would to tell you, Philip. What is it? Earlier, I got words from that organization. The organization has blacklisted the Echo Nexus Empire. From now on, the organization won't accept any bounty from us. Hearing this, Lucas showed a surprised look. Seeing that Lucas hasn't gotten angry at him, Philip secretly sighed in relief and thanked his luck. But why? Lucas frowned and asked. Philip's face became ugly as he said the three words. The Eastern Emperor. Aditya. Lucas still looked confused. Lucas hoped to eliminate Aditya. If the mission was successful, then winning this war would become 100% easier for them. I am not sure either. We even offered to pay them a huge sum of money, but they still refused to accept this bounty. Really, thank you very much to all those who... Back to the Echo Dominion Empire. The geography of the Echo Dominion Empire is very unique and special. On the east side, the Mystic Spring Empire shares a border with the empire. Being located at the very eastern edge of the northwest region, the Echo Dominion Empire has direct access to the sea from the northern side. Due to its unique location, the empire always held a big geographic advantage over the other empires. Using its unique geographic location, the empire successfully managed to build the largest port in the northwestern region of the empire. All the cargo ships coming from the dry savanna continent stopped at the Echo Dominion Empire to restock their supplies before heading to other regions of the dying Al continent. Most cargo ships from the dry savanna continent were full of mana stones or precious metals that cannot be found in the dying Al continent. The Echo Dominion Empire was able to take advantage of this and earn a big amount of profit. In the west, the Echo Dominion Empire shared borders with its biggest rival and enemy, the Echo Nexus Empire. And finally, on the southern borders, the Echo Dominion Empire shared its borders with the Kaisha Empire. Glutto Mountains formed a mountain range on the southern borders of the Echo Dominion Empire. This left the other side of the Glutto Mountains extremely dry. Kaisha Empire was located in a very bad position. Fortunately, the Mythia Empire is not dry as the Kaisha Empire as it has access to the sea from the eastern side. However, the Kaisha Empire was located in a place where it was completely surrounded by a land mass. It did not have any direct access to the sea. And the two giant mountains in the north and in the south blocked almost all of its rain. This makes Kaisha Empire extremely hot during summer. In the Kaisha Empire, water is more valuable than gold. If the Echo Dominion Empire were to fall, the empire that would benefit the most in the long run would be the Kaisha Empire. Life in Kaisha Empire is truly difficult. Kaisha Empire was slightly stronger than the Hephaestus Empire. To make sure that it would keep on surviving in the desert, the Kaisha Empire sent its troops outside the northwestern region. But when it joined the Oracle Alliance, all the members of the alliance had helped the empire. Kaisha Empire had sent 1 million troops toward the Echo Dominion Empire. However, the Echo Dominion Empire had long known about this part of the Glutto Mountain range. People of the Kaisha Empire used this route to illegally get into the Echo Dominion Empire to have a better life. Now this site was going to become the battlefield between the two empires. Knowing this, Daxton had sent 500,000 troops along with 2 beginner 5th Order. The allied troop of the Eastern Empire and the Echo Dominion Empire were waiting for the Kaisha Empire's troops to come. Although cultivators had better stamina and physique compared to normal humans, after climbing 4,000 meters, most of the soldiers who were First Order cultivators would be pretty much half exhausted or fully exhausted. So even before the war began, the Oracle Alliance was in a disadvantageous position. At first, Lucas wasn't worried. And after knowing that they had lost the first 2 battles, Lucas gave more firepower to the Kaisha Empire's army. Really, thank you very much to all those. At the top of the mountain, there was tension in the air. Everyone looked very serious. As the darkness of the night descended on the Glitto mountain range, the atmosphere started to get colder. And the glacier around them had dropped the temperature even further. The Glitto mountain range is almost covered in glaciers. Almost all its peaks have glaciers. Some of these glaciers are old as 100,000 or even 200,000 years. With each passing year, the thickness of these glaciers only keeps on increasing. The water that comes from the melting of the glacier mostly runs through the Echo Dominion Empire before reaching the sea. And other remaining rivers go into the Mystic Spring Empire and the Echo Nexus Empire. Despite having the second largest mountain range in the northwestern region at its border, the Kaisha Empire doesn't really get any water from the Glitto mountain range. And the Echo Dominion Empire never shared abundant fresh water with the Kaisha Empire. As the Kaisha Empire always stood with the enemies of the Echo Dominion Empire and never had any good political relationship. Reporting. Our scouts have spotted the enemy troops. Good job. Continue with your work. Receiving a compliment from the commander himself was a big thing for a mere low-rank soldier. The soldier was very happy. As the soldier walked away, the commander of the 1,000,000 troops turned to the young fox woman sitting opposite of him in the tent. Amber, what do you think? Asked the tall blonde-haired man named Alexander Dixon. Alexander Dixon has been made the commander of the combined army of the Echo Dominion and the Eastern Empire. Amber has been made the vice commander. The main reason Alexander was given the position of commander is because of his age and experience. Alexander Dixon led the Echo Dominion Empire's army the last time they went to war against a foreign empire, which was around 67 years ago. It was because of Alexander Dixon, the Echo Dominion Empire was able to win the war within 3 weeks. Amber is very young and inexperienced compared to Alexander Dixon. Not only that, but also, compared to Amber, Alexander Dixon is more powerful, which gave him an edge. Alexander Dixon was one of the best peak 5th Order mages in the entire Echo Dominion Empire. He was the best fire user in the Empire. Even though Amber didn't become the commander, she wasn't sad about it or anything. She just accepted her position and was doing her job, but this Alexander Dixon has been getting on her nerves for a while now. Ever since both of them met along with their Empire's army, Alexander Dixon has been flirting with Amber. Amber can see that Alexander had a big crush on her. But she wasn't the least bit interested in him. Let's welcome our enemies with fireworks. Amber did not look at Alexander. It will a while before the enemy comes. Alexander Dixon pushed one of the cups slightly toward Amber, who was sitting to the other side of the table. What is this? This is a special liquid made from a rare herb known as Sun Joy. That's really interesting. I only asked what is this. There was no need for such a lengthy answer. After harvesting the Sun Joy herb, salt is sprayed on the herb and then the herb is stored in a very cold temperature for over 6 months. Drinking this juice would slightly increase the healing speed. Will he shut up already? What she would do knowing about a herb that is completely useless for Alexander Dixon began to enjoy the Sun Joy juice. Amber, why don't you tell me a little about yourself? She couldn't wait to get out of this tent. Not interested. But Amber was totally different. That can mean one thing, she has a crush on someone or she is in love with another man. With a smile, Alexander took another sip of the Sun Joy juice before looking at Amber. Amber, why are you so secretive about your personal life? Amber gave Alexander a frosty glare before responding. I don't want to speak about my personal life. Let's keep things professional and not bring your personal lives into it. Seeing this, Alexander was left stunned. A minute after Amber left, Alexander turned to the man who has been sitting next to her and asked, why is she like this? Don't worry. Even though both of us serve the same master, she and I very rarely interact. But from her reaction, it was clear that she isn't interested in a human like you. Spoke the beginner 5th Order Dragon Warrior who has been sent here along with Amber. Poke Greenwood, who has been sent here along with Amber. Greenwood is the guardian of the Dragon Palace. Ever since he swore allegiance to the Dragon Monarch, he has never taken part in any battle. So this time, Aditya sent him with Amber to gain experience while another beginner 5th Order Dragon Warrior replaced him temporarily. For some reason, I feel like you're looking down on me. Replied Alexander while taking another sip. I am not looking down on you. The Eastern Empire is full of powerful dragons and dragonians. As someone who has the Royal Fox Queen bloodline, a dragon or a dragonian is more suited to become her future partner. She has Royal Fox Queen bloodline? Alexander gasped in shock seeing him nod his head. Greenwood was very bored. He is very diligent and would spend most of his time cultivating inside the Dragon Palace. Greenwood was one of those rare few cultivators who were able to detach themselves from worldly matters and focus completely on cultivation. Not even once, he felt bored while staying inside the Dragon Palace for months without going out. He loved silence more than anything. He didn't like speaking too much either. He is somehow who finds peace in cultivating. Even when he was a wild dragon, most of his time was spent cultivating in his cave. The only times he would go out of his cave is when he needed food and water. That's just my opinion. I am interested to see what kind of powers the child would have whose parents have a dragon bloodline and Royal Fox Queen bloodline. As for who she chooses as her future partner, that's entirely up to her to decide. Greenwood replied before taking another sip. As the sweet drink passed through his throat, Greenwood frowned before looking at the cup. Meanwhile, Alexander looked defeated hearing Greenwood's words. But it didn't even take him 5 seconds to recover his confidence and his resolve to keep pursuing Amber. No matter what happens, I am not giving up. By the way, why does this juice have the flavor of a strawberry? Greenwood broke the silence as he stared at the green liquid. Alexander brightly smiled and replied. Because I love strawberries. I think adding a strawberry has made the Sun Joy juice more tasty. What's with this cringy name? _____. After a few seconds of awkward silence and failing to come up with any answer, don't ask me. How would I know something like that? Makes sense. And then took another sip. 2 men kept each other company in silence. Alexander was not an introvert. He was an extrovert who loved socializing. For him, this silence was suffocating. It was as if with each passing second, the burden on him to say something was increasing. While Greenwood enjoying this silence. I have noticed this before. Despite only being a beginner 5th order cultivator, I can't help but feel as if you're almost strong as me if not equally strong as me. How are you so strong? Alexander never thought he would find himself asking such questions to a lower order cultivator. But Greenwood's strength had made him very curious. Greenwood lightly glanced at Alexander who was pouring himself another cup of Sun Joy juice and before responding. It's difficult to answer. If I had to reply, I would say my race and my bloodline give me an edge. Even before meeting Aditya, Greenwood was a wild dragon. Being a dragon he was very powerful. But after he became a dragon warrior, his bloodline became even purer which made him even stronger. Sigh. Sometimes, life can be unfair. Alexander again felt depressed. Every dragonian that Alexander has met was extremely powerful. It was as if heaven had blessed the Istran soldiers to be special. Alexander, I want to tell you something. What is it? Don't fucking add any strawberries into this juice. It tastes horrible. Okay. You're not exactly kind with your words. That's how I am. With each sip, the taste only keeps on becoming horrible. Watching Greenwood leave, Alexander sighed before taking out a bag of strawberries. Feeling depressed, he put several strawberries in his mouth and began to eat them with Sun Joy juice. As he chewed the strawberries, he smiled like a small child who was eating his favorite food. I am definitely not changing anything. Scene change __________. Amber returned to her tent which was set up for her by the soldiers of her division. Around 30% of Amber's division was made up of Fox race people. All the Fox race people loved and respected Amber. They treated her like their queen. As Amber entered her tent, she found her right hand looking very excited. Ella is also the 5th Division's vice captain and was the second most powerful soldier in Division 5 after Amber. Lady Amber, after this fight is over, do you want to go with us to see the Pink Lake? Pink Lake? It's a special lake located in the Kaisha Empire. Hearing this, Amber frowned. In the middle of the war, how can they leave their positions and go sightseeing? And that it is also inside the enemy's empire. Amber found this idea to be crazy. She was about to scold Ella for this. Lady Amber, this lake is very near the Glitto Mountain Range. And the area around the lake and the Glitto Mountain Range is totally empty. Hardly anyone lives in this part of the empire. Hearing this, Amber didn't know what to do anymore. She was also tempted to go and see this Pink Lake, but she was still hesitant. Her duties were stopping her from going. It is said that near the Pink Lake, there grows a special type of fruit. After eating this fruit, one would dream about her soulmate. Ella's words broke the last bit of hesitation that Amber had. Just like Ella, Amber also wanted to know who will become her future partner. How did you know about this? Amber asked as she and Ella had never come to this region. A friend of mine from the Echo Dominion Empire's army told me this. Ella met her when they were setting up tents. I happened to meet her, boom. Everyone in the tent became alert hearing the sound of magic cannons being fired. Amber ran out of the tent to see what was going on. Outside, she was soldiers running here and there. The whole situation was chaotic. Prepare the magic cannons. Her voice reached the ears of the soldiers who were assigned to load and fire magic cannons. Greenwood, what is happening? Amber quickly found Greenwood who was standing a few meters above the ground and looking in the direction of south. It appears, the enemy is attacking us with magic cannons. Saying that he created a giant dark green shield that was over 20 meters big in size. The dark green shield was transparent in color. Boom. The dark green shield blocked the magic cannon attack. But the attack left a small crack in the middle of the shield. How did the enemy come so near to us? What happened to all of our scouts? Amber was angry at the soldiers who had been put in charge to look out for the enemy troops and alert them. She thought those soldiers were slacking off. She even decided to harshly punish them later once this fight ends. Boom. Blocking the second magic cannon attack, Greenwood frowned and replied. The enemy has someone who is very good at illusion magic. This means, our soldiers were under an illusion this whole time. Amber and Greenwood noticed the crack on the dark green shield expanding. Amber frowned hearing Greenwood's explanation. Boom. His shield blocked the third attack. The shield was on the brink of collapsing. Probably another attack would break the shield. Amber, what is happening? Alexander ran in front of Amber. She and Greenwood can smell strawberries from Alexander. This guy was busy eating strawberries. His pant pockets were full of strawberries. He must have hurriedly stuffed all the strawberries in his pocket before running here. Drop. Suddenly a strawberry fell out of his pocket. Seeing this, Alexander hurriedly kneeled to the ground and gently picked it up. Unknowingly, all the respect that Amber and Greenwood had for this man had begun to disappear. At first, they saw Alexander as someone who is very serious and smart. But now he looked like an idiot to them. Especially in Amber's eyes, she had no respect for this man. Boom. This time, the shield broke down. But by now, the troops were ready to counter back. Fire. On Alexander's commander, 10 magic cannons were fired at the same time. Really, thank you very much to all those who sent. Lady Amber, what's your command? Asked Amber's right hand and the vice captain of the 5th Division, Ella. Just focus on defense. Amber, Alexander, Greenwood, and other powerful 3rd Order and 2nd Order cultivators were focusing on creating mana defensive barriers to protect themselves and the soldiers from the magic cannon attacks. However, the mana barriers that 4th Order and 3rd Order soldiers made were really weak and could hardly withstand the magic cannon's attacks. The soldiers instead worked in groups. The soldiers divided themselves into small groups containing 50 to 100 soldiers. Multiple 3rd and 4th Order soldiers came together to make a strong mana barrier capable of taking the attack of the magic cannons. But this does not mean that everyone was safe. The enemy also adopted the same strategy. But the mana barriers were not unbreakable shields. Each time the magic cannon attack hit a mana barrier, the barrier became weak, causing cracks to appear. The troops must put more of their mana to repair these cracks. The mana barrier would fall once the troops were out of the mana. Boom. Boom. Both sides continued to fire magic cannon attacks at each other for a while. As a result, a large amount of dust and pebbles rose in the air and blocked everyone's vision. But both sides kept firing at each other, as they knew the general direction of the enemy. Amber could sense that many of the Eastern and the Echo Dominion Empire's soldiers were seriously injured. Some already had died. And some were on the verge of death. If they acted quickly enough, they might be able to save their lives. But for that, they needed to stop them or destroy them with something stronger. Amber saw no other choice but to use that solar cannon that Aditya gave him. Greenwood, I need you to cover me. Greenwood created another mana barrier in front of Mana without asking any questions. As Amber took out the solar cannon, Alexander's eyes were completely drawn to it. The solar cannon did not have wheels. The barrel of the solar cannon was twice big compared to normal cannons. Unlike normal cannons, this cannon had no gun power, ignition chamber, or cannonball. Instead, a yellowish glowing stone was placed in the place of the gun power and the ignition chamber. What kind of cannon is that? The magic cannons that the Echo Dominion Empire used were really advanced. The Emperor had burned millions of gold coins and manpower to research and improve the power of the magic cannons. Alexander always felt proud of their magic cannons, as despite not having any help from allies, they were able to develop magic cannons as strong as the magic cannons that the Oracle Alliance possessed. In the past, the Echo Dominion had to be very worried about their border situation. Their enemies had surrounded, and it was only a matter of time before they attacked the Echo Dominion Empire and tried to consume it. As a result, a large portion of the Empire's revenue went into the military. In fact, the Echo Dominion Empire had the biggest military budget in the northwestern region, with the Echo Nexus Empire being the second. Amber put her hand on the barrel and then pushed a little bit of her mana on the barrel. A second later, a yellow ball of energy started forming at the muzzle of the cannon. At the same time, the whole barrel of the cannon started glowing. With each passing second, the glow brighter. The yellow energy ball also started getting bigger and much brighter. After 30 seconds of charging, she lifted her hand. A bright yellow ray of light temporarily blinded everyone's vision. The Kaisha Empire troops and commander only saw an intensely bright flash of light before an earth-shattering explosion took place. Boom! I think the world is ending. The soldiers who were near the explosion were blown away. The shockwave of the explosion severely injured them, while some weak soldiers couldn't even survive. The remaining other soldiers had to create mana barriers to protect themselves or take cover behind stones or magic cannons. The Echo Dominion Empire and the Eastern Empire soldiers were left totally stunned seeing this. Their eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. To think a magic cannon attack is that powerful. Suddenly the entire battlefield turned very silent. The Echo Dominion side stopped firing magic cannons. Everyone was just too shocked. Alexander looked like he was seeing the world ending. His pupils had contracted to the size of a needle watching the explosion take place. At that point, his heart pounded wildly. The shock that he received was just too much. If I was to be attacked by this cannon, then I don't think I can dodge it. It will leave me half dead. It would be a miracle if I managed to survive without any injuries. As a peak 5th Order mage, Alexander admitted that his main powers were spells. Compared to warrior path cultivators, it was far easier for mages to reach peak 5th Order. While his magic power was very high, his body wasn't strong as the bodies of peak 5th Order warrior path cultivators. As the smoke and dust settled, it revealed a gigantic crater. Around 1/10 of the enemy troops were completely gone. There were no signs and no traces of them. They simply vanished. Around the crater, there were many troops lying around and groaning in pain. Their bodies were full of injuries. But one by one, they started taking the healing pills that they had been given. The 2-star healing pills started healing their bodies. But it would take them an hour or two to fully recover, depending on the degree of burns and injuries that the soldiers had taken. Meanwhile, as the explosion had taken place, Amber, who was completely unfazed seeing this, began to prepare for a second strike. Everything began to calm down, she coldly smiled and then lifted her hand from the barrel. Time for the second strike. The enemy commander widened his eyes in fear as he saw another bright golden light. Jacob, do something. The commander shouted. His eyes and his voice were full of fear. If this second attack hit them, this was over for them. On it. Jacob was one of the beginner fifth-order cultivators from the Kaisha Empire. He flew in front of others and stood in the face of the second strike. But he had greatly underestimated the speed of the attack. The golden ray of light pierced his armor and then made a hole in his stomach and then went on to destroy the soldiers standing behind him. Boom! This magic cannon is almost like a cheat weapon. If our empire had this type of weapon, then we can crash the Oracle Alliance without needing anyone's help. Alexander stared at the solar cannon in envy. He was going to report this to Daxton. Since the Istran Empire and the Echo Dominion Empire were allies. Maybe they can use this to ask the Istran Empire to tell them how solar cannons can be made. Jacob. The Kaisha Empire's commander saw the dead body of Jacob lying in the middle of a second giant crater. This time also, another 100,000 troops died from the attack. And also left a large number of troops severely injured and unable to fight. Even before both parties directly clashed, the battle was already over. They already had 200,000 troops. Another 200,000 was severely injured. One of their fifth-order cultivators was also dead. Things couldn't get worse than this. Everyone retreat. We cannot win this battle anymore. After giving an order for retreatment, the enemy commander flew away and fled as fast as he can. Following the enemy commander, the mid-5th order cultivator who had been sent by Lucas to help the Kaisha Empire win this battle also left. The remaining 800,000 began to run. They began to run. No one bothered to take the magic cannons. Each magic cannon was 1,000,000 royal gold coins worth, yet nobody bothered to even look at them. Their lives mattered more than a magic cannon. Do not let the enemy troops retreat. Chase them. There is no need for that. Amber's voice stopped everyone from chasing after the enemy. Under everyone's gaze, Amber fired a third strike. Compared to the previous two strikes, this attack was even more powerful and dangerous. Boom! A huge cloud of smoke rose in the air. The cloud of smoke was so large that it could be seen in the Mystic Spring Empire. The people of the Echo Dominion Empire and the Kaisha Empire were able to see it as well. In the west, the people who lived near the Echo Nexus Empire's border were able to see it as well. That day, the shape of the Glitto Mountain range had slightly changed forever, making this part of the Glitto Mountain range a more gentle slope. Dragonians, it's your turn to chase down the enemy. Thousands of Dragonians flew away and started hunting fleeing enemies. The attack had killed an estimation of around 250,000 to 300,000 troops. This meant that nearly half of the total enemy troops were dead. The ones that did manage to survive were mostly probably seriously injured. With their flight ability, hunting those fleeing soldiers shouldn't be much of a problem. Under everyone's eyes, Amber put the solar cannon back into the storage ring and walked back to the place where her tent was previously set. With all the magic cannon firings, most of the tents had been destroyed. Fortunately, she had another large tent in her storage ring. Meanwhile, Alexander snapped out of his daze. He slightly felt embarrassed. He felt Amber was more suited for leading the troops. In this fight, she was very calm and she acted more like the commander than he did. Not to mention the solar cannon that he had displayed had taken the spotlight. I must report everything to His Majesty as soon as possible. As Alexander was about to order the soldiers to clean up the surroundings, he suddenly found someone teleporting a few meters away from him. Arriving at the third battlefield, Aditya was surprised to see everything was over already. He couldn't see any signs of battles being fought. But he can see signs of large destruction taking place. It was as if someone had bombarded this whole place. There were small, large, medium, and tiny, all sizes of craters. Ignoring Alexander, Aditya observed the state of the battlefield. Greenwood saw Aditya and immediately got on one knee and greeted him. Stand up, Greenwood. He looked in the direction of the south. He can sense many enemy troops running away. This was something unacceptable to Aditya. Even if 100,000 troops managed to return, the enemy would gain additional 100,000 troops for their next fight. This is why he wanted either all of the troops to be killed or to be captured and turned into war prisoners. Hunt them down. Just 3 words were enough. Greenwood nodded his head. He bent his legs slightly before jumping into the sky. The next second, his entire body morphed into something bigger. He turned into a giant dragon that was over 15 meters in size. Swoosh! The giant dragon's roar was heard as he disappeared into the distance. Aditya then turned his attention to Alexander. Your Majesty. Alexander greeted Aditya with a small bow. I want to know what happened here. Aditya could sense Amber a little bit far away from his. He can sense that most of the Istran soldiers were alright. Only a small percentage of the 500,000 soldiers were injured. The injured troops can easily recover using the healing pills that every Istran troop was given before being sent to war. And the healing pills that Julia made were more effective than normal pills. But sadly around 11,500 soldiers seem to have died. There is nothing Aditya can do about this. Deaths are inevitable in war. It was a cruel and bitter fact. No emperor wants his troops to die. At least, Aditya doesn't want to see his soldiers die. But compared to the Eastern Empire, the Echo Dominion Empire had lost even more troops. The Empire had lost 21,900 soldiers. More of their soldiers were injured as well. The Eastern troops were very well equipped. Each troop had full armor, a weapon, and multiple kinds of pills. Even the weakest soldier had 1-star armor and 1-star weapon. Whereas most Echo Dominion troops only had chest plates as their armor. The soldiers were given only one healing pill. And the quality of the pill wasn't that great either. The enemy had an illusion master. Using illusion, they managed to come near our base and launch attacks using magic cannons. We somehow managed to. Aditya's cold icy stare completely shut Alexander's mouth. So you're telling me that the enemy troops managed to get this near to the base yet, you as a peak 5th order cultivator failed to sense their presence. Before Alexander could react, a hand reached his throat with a lightning pace. He grabbed his throat and then lifted him up in the air. He felt choked. He felt like Aditya was going to crash his throat. The Echo Dominion and the Eastern Empire's troops gulped in fear as they watched this scene unfold. Do you better have some reasonable explanation for this? Otherwise, I am going to drown you in that pink lake and feed your dead body to the dogs. This is a war. I need responsible people. Fortunately for Greenwood, he wasn't here, otherwise, he too would have suffered the same fate. As for Amber, her cultivation limited her senses. And she wasn't a sensory-type cultivator either. So her range was very limited. Even the 4th order Dragonians can only sense up to a 2 or 3 kilometers range. The commotion brought Amber to Aditya. Seeing Alexander being choked by Aditya, she was a little happy in her heart. But she did not show it on her face as she did not want anyone to get the wrong idea. Please forgive me. I was wrong. Alexander then gasped for air. He was struggling to breathe. Our scout said that it would take more than hours for the enemy troops to come. But the enemy had an illusion master. I suspect he had put our scouts into illusion and made the scouts think that the Kaisha Empire's troops is very far away and would take a long time to reach the battlefield. But that does not explain how you and Greenwood failed to sense the approaching troops' presence. I understand that 4th order cultivators can't sense that far. But what excuse do you two have? I and Sir Greenwood were having sun joy juice. The side effect of the juice is that for 10 or 20 minutes, our senses would be dulled. Aditya let Alexander go. Alexander fell on his butt. He inhaled as much air as he could. So even though you knew about this, you still drank this juice and even made Greenwood drink it as well. How can you, who is the commander of 1 million troops, be so irresponsible? Hearing this, Alexander felt a chill running down his spine. In this continent, being a peak 5th order cultivator meant that he was an existence who stands at the very top. Peak 5th order cultivators are considered demigod for a reason. Hence, for them, even the laws are bent. Even if a cultivator broke some laws and did something wrong, the emperor can't just punish the cultivator too cruelly, as that would mean losing the loyalty of that cultivator and potentially losing one of their strongest military pillars that ultimately holds and supports the emperor's empire. In this regard, Daxton was also the same. As long as they don't go too far, he would just ignore their actions and continue with his life as if he is blind. But Aditya isn't the same. He had the strength and the boldness to kill a peak 5th order of his own empire, unlike most emperors. Daxton might not punish Alexander as ultimately they won the battle. The Dragon Emperor wasn't going to let go of this matter easily. It's decided. Alexander, from now on, you're no longer in charge of these troops. What? Not just Alexander, but all the troops listening to this were deeply shocked. Your Majesty, with all due respect, how are you planning on winning the next battle without me? Do you think that you're the only peak 5th order we have? Your punishment will be decided later. For now, go back to the capital and wait. Having no other choice, Alexander could only nod his head while holding back his anger and frustration. Alexander was angry at being humiliated in front of his own troops by the Eastern Emperor. Aditya could have done this in private, but he chose to humiliate him in front of everyone. It would be better if you just accept your failure and stop putting the blame on others' heads. That way, you will find inner peace and won't be consumed by hatred. If you let yourself be consumed by this growing hatred, then you will leave me with no choice but to cut you down. Seeing Alexander leaving, Aditya inwardly thought. This situation wouldn't have happened if Daxton had kept his dogs under control. Your Majesty. Amber greeted Aditya. Forgive me. This is not your fault. Once Greenwood returns, tell him to meet me. Aditya can't be biased and only punish Alexander. It was somewhat Greenwood's fault as well. If he only punished Alexander and left Greenwood without any punishment, then the Echo Dominion Emperor and others would think that Aditya is biased and is purposely targeting the Echo Dominion Empire. This would mark the beginning of a crack in their alliance, which he didn't want to see happening, especially in the middle of the war. Hearing this, Amber knew that Greenwood was screwed. Amber, have someone gather the dead bodies of the Eastern troops and sent them back to the Eastern Empire. Understood. Seeing that the third battlefield already had ended, Aditya teleported to the fourth battlefield. While Aditya was going from one battlefield to another and the whole Oracle Alliance was in chaos. Before this war started, no one in their wildest dreams dared to think that they would lose the first 3 battles. But now, given how things were going, the Eastern Empire would win its 4th battle as well. The Mystic Spring Empire, the Mythia Empire, and the Kaisha Empire, all 3 empires have suffered a lot because of Aditya. At the same time, another problem arose. The news about the Mystic Spring Empire, the Mythia Empire, and the Kaisha Empire losing their battle spread in all directions like wildfire. The news quickly spread to all of the powerhouses in the northwestern region. In every major city, the news had currently become a very hot topic. It was as if someone was deliberately spreading this news. Scene change ____. So what happened? Seeing his cold and merciless eyes, Smith lowered his head and looked at the ground. Smith was the mid-5th order cultivator sent by Lucas to help the Kaisha Empire to win their battle. But for some reason, his man ran away from the battlefield like a coward. Smith had directly returned to Ostrance, which was the capital of the Echo Nexus Empire. As soon as he returned, he was taken to have a meeting with the Echo Nexus Empire. By now, almost everyone within the city was asleep. The Emperor and everyone within the Echo Nexus Emperor Castle were still awake. No one really knows the reason for such strange law to exist. But a law is a law. And the punishment for breaking such a law was death. And that's why no servant or maid dared to close their eyes while they are working inside the royal palace. This is also why most of the servants and maids who worked in the royal palace did not live inside the royal palace. Instead, they lived in the capital with their families. Smith's entire body trembled in deep fear. He didn't dare to look at Lucas, who was sitting on his throne. Instead, he stared at his own feet and repeatedly prayed in his heart that he doesn't get killed by Lucas for his failure. We managed to launch a surprise attack on the enemy using magic cannons. At first, everything looked in our favor, but a few minutes later that completely changed. What happened? Did the enemy commander summon a meteorite and threw it on you guys? No, nothing like that happened. The vice commander of the enemy suddenly took out a uniquely shaped cannon. I don't know what this cannon is called, but it takes around 30 seconds to fire. Instead of firing magic cannonballs, it fires a powerful golden ray of light that looks like sunlight. The cannon is powerful enough to kill a beginner 5th order mage. It was able to kill around 100,000 of our troops with a single strike. Hearing this, Lucas nearly fell from his throne. He suddenly found strength leaving his body, filling his whole heart with fear. Just imagining a cannon capable of taking out 100,000 troops chilled his heart. What kind of cannon was that? Lucas rubbed his forehead while deeply thinking. After around a few minutes of deep thinking, Lucas turned to Smith. Tell me more about this cannon. Tell me how it looked. The cannon did not have wheels. The barrel of the cannon was twice big compared to normal cannons. A yellowish glowing stone was placed in the place of the gunpowder and the ignition chamber. Hearing this, Lucas fell into a silence once again. So it's cannon that can somehow harvest the light energy inside the solar crystals and turn into a beam-like attack. Even after years of time and countless resources in research, the Oracle Alliance has never been able to make something this powerful, yet a recently formed empire was able to do it. How pathetic. I feel as if I had just wasted my time and millions of my gold coins for no reason. How should I even deal with such a weapon? Then should I just surrender and end this war? Not all hopes were lost. After around 5 minutes of complete silence, Lucas's eyes finally focused on Smith. This made Smith stiffen. He felt very nervous. Smith, although I am disappointed in you for running away from the battlefield which had ruined the Echo Nexus Empire's name, just this time, I won't punish you. Unlike other emperors, Lucas had the power to even punish peak 5th order cultivators. There is only one peak 5th order cultivator in the Echo Nexus Empire that he can't punish even if he wanted to. Fortunately, he is one of the most loyal men out there. On the orders of the Emperor, he wouldn't even hesitate to give up his life. Sigh. Thank God. Smith sighed in relief. The invisible pressure that Smith was feeling this whole time seems to have disappeared. As his worries faded, Smith was able to breathe deeply and relax his body in front of the Emperor. Lucas and other emperors planned everything without considering the Isteran troops' involvement. Everyone thought, at most, Aditya would send powerful 5th order and peak 4th order cultivators. But never did the Oracle Alliance think that he wouldn't care about his wealth and would send around 2 million troops to the northwestern region. I won't punish you because you have provided the Echo Nexus Empire with very valuable intel. And also, the situation wasn't exactly in your favor. Smith lowered his head and nodded his head. So I have another task for you. Smith thought that he was going to be sent to another battlefield or something similar. But thinking about the battlefield, he couldn't help but think about that cannon that the enemy vice commander used. I want you to go to the Obi Islands and give this key and this letter to the gatekeeper of the old abandoned church which is located in Sunflower City. The Obi Islands are located northwestern side of the Echo Nexus Empire. The Obi Islands are big as the Queenstown Empire. Smith was confused hearing the Emperor's words. Why he was being sent to do a delivery job? This should be the job of the regular soldiers or servants. But knowing that he had angered the Emperor and would only end up angering him again if he showed any objection, he silently accepted the order. A green old key along with a letter was handed to Smith's hand by the Emperor. Holding the green key, Smith felt a small trace of evil energy in it. Once you give this letter and key to the gatekeeper, he will explain everything to you. I expect you to return within 24 hours. Understood. Smith bowed to the Emperor and then walked out of the throne hall. After Smith exited the throne hall, Lucas began to grin. Smith had no idea what he was about to unleash on this world. If Smith had known about it, then he wouldn't have went there. On the western borders of the Echo Dominion Empire, the fourth battle is yet to be fought. The troops from the Echo Nexus Empire did not cross the border. They did not step into the Echo Dominion Empire. What is happening? Asked General Josh. On the western fronts, Scott was appointed as the commander's role while Josh was given the vice commander's role. Scott had 1 million troops under his control. Among the 1,500,000 of the troops were the Isteran troops. Around 200,000 Isteran troops belonged from Scott's 1st Division and were archers. The majority of the 200,000 archers were mostly dark elves. Unlike other kinds of elves that can mostly be found in the celestial terrain, dark elves can be found on all continents of this world. This is because there is a sort of racism against all dark elves by other elven species. As the Eastern Empire grew, more and more dark elves who lived in the dying Al continent came and joined the military under Scott's division. On the other hand, Josh's squad was mostly made up of beast race people. Most of his division's members were half beast and half humans. These were the people whose ancestors had somehow reproduced with beast race men or females. The rest 50,000 were made up of troops from other divisions. Like from Nathan's Shadow Guardian division, a few hundred troops were sent. A good scout can bring valuable information. As the Echo Dominion Empire shared its borders with its greatest enemy and rival on the west, the Echo Nexus Empire often held military drills near their borders. At one point, Daxton was even thinking of building a giant wall across the long western borders. The giant wall would start from the coastlines and would end near the Glitto mountain range, which extended to the borders of the Echo Nexus Empire in the west. However, the plan only remained as an idea, as Daxton's prime minister calculated that around 10 billion gold coins would be needed to complete such an ambitious project. According to an estimation, it would take more than 40 years to complete the project. The Istran troops along with Josh and Scott had teleported near one of the border cities, reporting, "Sire, the enemy has stopped marching." "What?" Josh interrupted the scout, who was one of the Shadow Guardians. Scott gave a silently cold glare to Josh that instantly shut his mouth before looking at the scout. "You continue." "The enemy stopped at their borders. They are yet to step on the Echo Dominion Empire. Thank you for your hard work. You can leave now." Currently, all the soldiers were resting in their tents or filling their stomachs so that everyone would be at their 100% when the battle begins. "What do you think?" Josh asked. Josh wasn't that good at thinking. Being a lion man, he was more better at swinging his great sword than using his brain. "I think Lucas has ordered them to stop." "Why do you think he would do that?" Josh asked without thinking. Scott stared at Josh in silence for a few seconds. He looked at Josh in great disappointment. "Now what's with that look?" Others might not know it, but all of the Istran troops knew that there was a rivalry between the 1st Division and the 4th Division. Neither elves nor beast men get along with each other. "I am just disappointed in you. If only you stopped eating so much meat and wine, your rotten brain might start to work again." This made Josh feel as if Scott was looking down on him. Josh sat down on the chair next to Scott and snorted while folding his arms on his chest. "Humph. Eating meat and wine is 100 times better than those tasteless green leaves that you eat every—" Scott sat on the empty chair and then closed his eyes as he calmly replied to Josh. "Don't talk about taste when the only thing that you ever eat is meat and wine." Remembering the battle that he had with Scott around a week ago, Josh felt his anger increasing. "Just as I fell to the ground, you also fell down. I fell down after you did, so it was my win." Hearing this, Josh grinned before taking out his great sword. "Why wait till the end of the war when we can fight now?" Scott also took out his bow and looked at Josh. "Who said I was scared? Let's fight now." "Josh and Scott, how many times do I have to tell you two to stop arguing? There is no point in this." Aditya felt exhausted seeing Josh and Scott holding their weapons and facing each other. "Really, thank you very much to all the—" Hearing this, both captains froze. The duo stared at their master in silence. After a few seconds of silence, Scott quickly put his bow inside his storage ring. Josh followed Scott and put his great sword in the tent. Both of them pretended as if nothing happened. "Your Majesty, what are you doing here?" Amber used the solar cannon to defeat the Kaisha Empire's troops. "I came here to lend a helping hand and finish this battle as soon as possible." Scott nodded his head in agreement and added, "The enemy has stopped advancing. I feel the enemy has become cautious and has decided to not recklessly charge into the battle." "That is very possible, but it does not mean that we will wait here for the enemy." "Your Majesty, you can't mean—" "Yes, prepare yourself. With Aditya by their side, who in this world can stop them?" Scene change ___. On the other side. The Echo Nexus Empire's troops had set tents and were resting. The army of 1 million troops was doing many kinds of activities. A few thousand troops were responsible for constantly scouting the surroundings and keeping a watch on the borders. In the dark forest, the Echo Nexus Empire's troops had set many campfires. Many soldiers were sitting around the campfires and sitting idly. Around 10 meters away from the small river, there were hundreds of gigantic cooking pots set on fire. Of course, the commander and the vice-commander of the Echo Nexus Empire's army wouldn't eat such basic-level food. A strong appetizing smell of the meat soup drifted in the air. "I can't wait to have dinner. It's going to be very delicious. Can't you think of anything besides eating? Why are you all not worried about this war and our upcoming battle?" Among the 1 million, there were many who thought this way. A captain-ranking soldier who had worked under the commander decided to reply and clear his doubts. "We are not being careless or anything. But we are not absolutely certain when the enemy is going to attack. Instead of waiting for the enemy throughout the entire night without taking any rest, the commander wants us to rest properly and preserve our stamina." "Captain, are you not scared? I heard that the Istran Empire has bought their troops. Meaning, we just won't be facing troops from just one empire. Why we should be scared? Did you forget who our commander is? With him here, how can we lose this fight?" While everyone was busy with their activities, a loud voice reached their ears. "Everyone's food is ready." As prepared to eat, suddenly a bright golden beam of light lit the entire forest. The area around the tent had become bright. Everyone realized the light was getting brighter. Just as the golden beam of light was about to devour them, a man stepped in front of the beam and stopped the attack from ending their lives. Boom! A huge explosion took place. However, the explosion did not harm the man nor did the terrifying shockwave. "The enemy has attacked. Everyone get ready to fight." All the troops took out their weapons and wore their armor. As everything died down, the dome-like shield started to disappear. Aditya, who was around 3 kilometers away, narrowed his eyes as he saw a shadow figure stopping the solar cannon's attack from destroying the Echo Nexus Empire's troops. "He is a powerful one. He can sense it. This man was far more powerful than Victoria or any other peak 5th order cultivator that Aditya has met since the start of this war. Aditya suspected that no one in the Eastern Empire and in the Echo Dominion Empire would be strong enough to defeat him. Sensing his presence, Aditya was feeling fortunate that the Echo Nexus Empire's troops did not attack. If the fight had started, then that man alone would have wiped out every single one of their troops. Several kilometers away from Aditya's location, the army that was being led by Commander Scott and Vice Commander Josh was still in the territory of the Echo Dominion Empire. As the massive explosive lit the night sky, all the soldiers stopped moving and took a moment to stare at the sky. Scott and Josh also looked very impressed. They couldn't stop staring. Let's hurry up. Seeing the explosion, Josh felt excited at the thought of fighting the Echo Nexus Empire's troop. Scene change .. Meanwhile, Aditya put the solar cannon in his storage ring. As silence slowly returned, Aditya, who was standing on top of a rocky mountain, waited to face the enemy commander. Your attack wasn't strong enough. The man was standing in the air with his hands folded on his chest. You're Arturo Travis. And you must be the Eastern Emperor, Aditya. The sole reason Aditya was personally getting involved in every battle was because of one man. He is someone who Aditya believed had the strength and power to defeat him. The power gap between a normal peak 5th order and someone like Arturo creates lots of confusion. The amount of power a peak 5th order cultivator would possess depends on bloodline, class, and skills. Peak 5th order mage cultivators like Alexander are good at using spells and magic type attacks, but their physical stats are not that great. And there are also a few individuals like Arturo who has been able to increase their powers to a higher level despite their cultivation being restricted to peak 5th order. He had made his body so strong that he was able to take the full hit of the solar cannon without getting even a small burn mark on his body. Arturo is the greatest and most powerful weapon that the Echo Nexus Empire has under their possession. His unbeaten record has given him the nickname of the Unbeaten Barbaric King. As the Echo Nexus Empire grew, Lucas made sure to eliminate all of his potential threats. Although it isn't confirmed, rumors say that Arturo has a very rare mythical class. His mythical class makes him very strong with each passing battle. Alpha King. Class, Alpha King. Description: Alpha King is someone who is born superior to others. A cultivator with the Alpha King class can grow extremely powerful. The Alpha King is a very special class that integrates both warrior path cultivation and mage path cultivation into one. Having the Alpha King class gives the cultivator special talents. Functions: fast learner. With every battle, Alpha King class holders keep on becoming stronger. Blessing: being the bearer of the Alpha King class, the cultivator can bless his subordinates and the people around him. Determination of a king: Alpha King class holder is on the verge of dying. With enough determination and willpower, determination of a king can be activated. Arturo also has a special bloodline in his body. His bloodline makes him even more powerful and dangerous. Bloodline: Amethyst Berserker. Bloodline: Amethyst Berserker. Description: Amethyst Berserker is a superior bloodline that forms from the Lion Beastmen bloodline and Orc bloodline. The holder of the Amethyst Berserker is born extremely strong. To make up for this, Amethyst Berserker is born with supernatural strength that can rival even dragons. Arturo is 5 feet 5 inches tall, which is very unusual for someone who is half Lion Beastmen and half Orc. He had a long black spear on his right and a black sword on his left hand. But he did wear gauntlets. Let's fight. Arturo was very excited and pumped to fight powerful as Aditya. The unbeaten barbaric king wanted to slay the divine dragon. Let's fight. Aditya replied as he activated all of his passive skills. Inferno Overdrive. Storm Flight. Lightning Armor. Crimson Lightning Dash. Ding. Clang. From a far distance, people saw two rays of light heading in each other's direction. There was a crimson ray of light and a blue ray of light. Under their eyes, they witnessed the unbelievable sight of two strange rays of light colliding. Boom. Crack. A violent shockwave spread as a result of their collision. The ground also had cracked and a large crater had formed. But the two rays of light did not stop there. From the border cities of both empires, the people who lived in high elevations were able to see this strange sight. The rays of light repeatedly kept clashing as if trying to destroy one another. The people didn't know the great damage that both of them were causing to the land as a result of their fight. To the people, it was a very strange sight. It was not every day that they saw two rays of light clashing against each other. But there were some individuals among the crowd who were able to guess what was happening. People would never think that these two rays of light are cultivators who were currently fighting with everything they have. The Echo Nexus Empire's commander and their strongest peak 5th order cultivator were against the Eastern Emperor. The unbeaten barbaric king was fighting the dragon monarch. Mommy, what are those rays of light? Asked a little girl to her mother. The little girl and her mother were watching two rays of light clashing. Sweetie, these two rays of light must be angels fighting each other. The girl's mother had no answer to her daughter's question. She could only make a fake answer. Clang. 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 The two rays of light collided once again. Their collision sent another massive shockwave that surrounded the surroundings. This battle was destroying the trees and the habitats of the magic animals that lived on the borders. Boom. After clashing, both rays of light went in two separate directions. The people saw that the two rays of light seems to have gotten faster. Boom. As both rays of light collided, a sound sonic boom was heard across the earth and heaven. Meanwhile, a second later after their collision, everyone saw both rays of light going upwards together. After their massive collision, Arturo was somehow able to grab Aditya by his throat and then take him up in the air. Under the eyes of more than 10,000 people, the two rays of light continued rising upward. Meanwhile, Aditya was gasping for air. Ah! Blood painted his teeth as he tried to free himself. Arturo looked confused seeing Aditya taking out a black sword from his storage ring. Enlarge. Seeing the black sword growing in size, Arturo let go of Aditya. Using this chance, Aditya swung the large adamantite doomblade at Arturo. Arturo dodged the attack and managed to punch Aditya in the stomach. Bang! The power of the punch made him fall from the sky. Arturo did not let go of Aditya. Arturo's POV ______. Arturo was very good today. As someone who has been crowned with the title of the unbeaten barbaric king, Arturo always has desired to meet an opponent who would be able to push him to his very limits. Over time, Arturo gave up trying to find someone stronger. Even after his cultivation reached the peak limit of peak 5th order, instead of spending his time cultivating, Arturo spent all of his time training. He spends all of his time training his body, making his body a weapon itself. Arturo believed that once a cultivator reaches the peak order of any cultivation, even though he can't cultivate without breaking into the next order, the cultivator still can continue to become stronger. Though it was impossible to grow the mana reserve of a cultivator without cultivating, it was possible to improve the cultivator's other stats through intense training. Each cultivator's maximum capacity depends on factors such as the cultivator's bloodline, class, skills, and environment. You're Arturo Travis. I was surprised to know that someone like him knows about me. But then again, it is normal for the enemy to know about me, as I am their biggest threat. And you must be the Istran Emperor, Aditya. I was able to train my body and come this far because of the rare mythical class and my bloodline. Arturo shivered at the thought of fighting peak 5th order Aditya. Clang. 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 Arturo and Aditya continued to clash. Both of them exchanged moves and learned about each other's strengths. As the fight went on, Arturo gradually stopped and began holding back and increasing his attack powers. And to his surprise, Aditya was able to keep up with him. It seems he too was holding his powers back. Realizing this made Arturo even more excited. He started using his full power without holding. Arturo took him to the sky. As expected, Aditya was able to free himself from his grip. But that was what he wanted him to do. As Aditya fell down from the sky, Arturo chased after him. Arturo's POV the people were able to see the crimson ray of light followed by the blue ray of light. While chasing after Aditya, Arturo brought his palms together and fired multiple ice lightning bolts at Aditya. Boom! Crack! As seconds passed, Aditya realized that Arturo's lightning bolts were no ordinary lightning bolts. The crimson bolts of lightning were being pushed back. Seeing this, Aditya moved out of the way. The ice lightning bolts failed to hit Aditya and hit the ground. As soon as it came near the ground, everything turned into a frozen statue. An area that was nearly 500 meters big was completely frozen in ice. Aditya saw this and looked at Arturo, who sent a 10 meters giant orb of blue flame. This isn't some ordinary flame. Aditya thought as he proceeded to counter the blue flame orb with a 10 meters big crimson flame orb. Boom! As both attacks collided. Really, thank you very much to all those is in the comments section. Really. Dragon Monarch of crimson flame danced around his mighty imposing body. The unbreakable crimson scales covering his body were shining brightly in the dark. The shine gave him a unique glow in the darkness of the night. It looked as if he was a true divine out of this world. A divine who had descended to the mortal realm to rule and conquer. Intemperate crimson lightning bolts were flickering around his body. Those who even come near him would be hit with a bolt of crimson lightning. In the distance, the Istran and the Echo Dominion Empire's troops saw all of this. Once again, the army of 1 million stopped advancing just to look and admire the divine dragon form of the Istran Emperor. Beautiful. So this is the dragon form of our emperor. None of the Istran soldiers has ever seen their emperor's divine dragon form. Almost every Istran troop wanted to see their emperor in his divine dragon form. And today, they were lucky enough to witness it. Majestic. I honestly have no words to describe astonished I am currently, said the Echo Dominion Emperor's troops. I feel as if I am in the presence of a true divine being, a dragon god. God. Scott stepped forward and said in a soft tone that reached everyone's ears. No, he isn't the dragon god. He is the king of all dragons, he is the ruler of earth, he is the divine, he is the ever-powerful and undefeatable, he is, the dragon monarch. As these words were spoken, the soldiers had goosebumps while staring at the giant imposing divine dragon. On the other side, the reaction of the Echo Nexus Empire's troops was quite ugly. Since their commander and the enemy were fighting far away from their location, they couldn't exactly see what was going on. And now even from such a far distance, they witnessed two different kinds of dragons facing each other. Tap. Tap. A 5 feet tall 17-years-old young boy called his 19-years-old friend. Brother, while everyone is distracted, let's escape. Billy, what the hell are you saying? Steve grabbed Billy's both shoulders and seriously looked into his eyes. This empire is our home. We were born in this empire and we have an obligation to serve this empire. We swore to defend this empire from its enemies and protect its honor. We swore to help His Majesty in making this empire a paradise for your children and our families. This was the narrative that the empire used to brainwash its soldiers. After all that the empire has done for you, how can you possibly harbor the thought of betraying your own motherland? Steve tried his best to keep his tone low so that others won't hear his words. If others knew that Billy was trying to flee, then the others would consider Billy a traitor and would instantly kill him. This isn't something that Steve didn't want to see happening, as Billy was his best friend and was also like his little brother whom he had looked after ever since he had joined the military. Steve's last sentence about the Empire snapped something inside Billy. Billy pushed Steve's hands away from his shoulders and angrily asked. What has the Empire done for me? Ever since I joined the military I have been told by countless people including the Emperor that the Empire has done so much for me and others like me. But what exactly did the Empire do for me? I have lived on the streets and ate rotten food to survive. Did the Empire give me food and shelter to survive? The answer is no. I didn't have the money to attend school. Growing up, I have always been kicked around and humiliated by the rich, by the soldiers, by the nobles, and by everyone in society. Where was the Empire when I needed them the most? This narrative that the Empire has done so much for me and people like me is complete utter bullshit. I never expected you of all people to get brainwashed by such a stupid narrative. He had never seen Billy this angry before. And Billy's words have shaken his core beliefs about the Empire. He was starting to doubt his own words, his own heart, and his own choices. To the middle class and especially the lower class people, the fastest and the easiest way of becoming rich and having a better quality of life and rise in social status would be to let one of their family members become a soldier. The Echo Nexus Empire had the second largest army in the dying Al continent after the Eastern Empire. Recruiting young soldiers meant that the soldier can work for the Empire for the next 15 to 20 years. The Empire would be easily able to mold the young recruits into whatever they wished. Are you coming with me or not? Billy asked one last time. He was sick of this. A complicated look appeared on Steve's face as he stared at the distance. He then looked at Billy and asked. Even if we escape, we can't return to the Empire as we would be executed for fleeing. And with the current ongoing war, our escape to the Echo Dominion Empire is closed. We can't also head to the other empires as those empires are close allies of the Echo Nexus Empire. Unless we have a crazy amount of wealth to buy tickets and use the teleportation array and run to another region or continent, there is no escape route for us. We are not going to escape the Echo Nexus Empire. Even though Billy was young he was very smart and his trait of being able to quickly read the situation and think under tense situations allowed him to come this far in life. Then what are we? We will wait. If our commander wins, then we will make some excuses and stay in the army. That's crazy. Why would we do that? The reason is simple. Our commander is the main power of the Echo Nexus Empire. Really thank you very much to all those who send support with valuable golden tickets. If he is defeated, then there is no one who would be able to stop the Eastern Emperor. This means the Echo Nexus Empire will fall. If the leader of the Oracle Alliance falls, then the other members of the Oracle Alliance will either lose or just surrender and look for a peace treaty. Billy understood that the power of the Oracle Alliance is concentrated in the hands of the Echo Nexus Empire. Really thank you very much. The Eastern Dragon flew towards the cloud at a very fast pace. Under everyone's gaze, the Eastern Green Dragon created a hole through the clouds and went beyond the clouds. However, the Western Dragon did not chase after the Eastern Dragon. Aditya stared at the sky and waited to see what Arturo wanted to do. The next second, an intense bright blue light pierced the dark clouds and reached the earth. The bright light was so intense that anyone within 100 kilometers was able to see this light. Letting out another thunderous roar, Arturo descended on Aditya at lightning speed. His whole body was covered in blue flames. As he flew down, his body left a blue streak behind. Seeing this, Aditya's dragon senses flared up, as if trying to warn him about the potential danger coming from the Eastern Dragon. Aditya briefly glanced at the list of passive skills and the innate skill he was currently using. Seeing that Aditya is not doing anything to counter his attack or defend himself, Arturo suddenly felt a little bit suspicious in his heart. But that did not stop him there. If you think that you're strong enough to take this attack without using any skills or artifact, then I will be disappointed to know that my opponent is an idiot. It's not every day that he meets someone like Aditya with the power and potential to end his kill. Scott, Josh, and other Eastern and Echo Dominion Empire troops saw the Eastern Dragon smashing at the Western Dragon. What followed was a loud explosion that sent shockwaves in every direction and earthquake to take place. With the shockwave, a cold frost energy spread everywhere. As the shockwave traveled in every direction, the frost energy completely froze everything in its path. Nothing was spread, whether it was trees, animals, insects, rocks, stones, or rivers. Whatever came in contact with the cold frost energy which was released due to the blue flame, instantly froze. Watching the destruction taking place, Josh and Scott gulped and thought. Fortunately, we are very far away from them, otherwise, just this shockwave would have been enough to end us. Did we win? The Echo Nexus Empire's soldiers were very happy at this moment. Or, at least that's what most soldiers thought in their minds. However, Arturo didn't look too happy. He calmly walked out of the crater that formed as a result of his attack. Arturo was extremely frustrated at this moment. He was very angry. The battle was just getting started, but his opponent had to flee. I didn't know Aditya can use teleportation skill. Arturo ended up slightly injuring himself as a result. This is why he was so angry. Now what should I do? Meanwhile, let's escape. But don't say any word. Our lives are more important. Like Billy and Steve, a few other small groups of soldiers managed to flee in the darkness of the night without anyone noticing them. In the Echo Dominion Empire's territory. Scott, where is His Majesty? I am here. Josh and Scott almost jumped in fright as they heard Aditya's voice behind them. Your Majesty, what are you doing here? I teleported back to the Dragon Palace before Arturo's attack would hit me. Aditya's human body started to transform into the body of a divine dragon. Arturo will sense my presence. I can't stay here. I have to end this battle. Arturo was about to leave when he faintly sensed Aditya's presence. At first, he thought he couldn't believe it. But with each second, the presence became more apparent, so he didn't just run away. Meanwhile, the Echo Nexus troops saw dark clouds containing crimson lightning over their heads. Seeing this, everyone had some doubts in their hearts. Aditya is busy fighting the commander, how can he have time to attack us? That's what more soldiers thought in his mind. However, contrary to their wishes and expectations, the next second, countless crimson lightning bolts started raining down on them. The army of 1 million became chaotic. The soldiers abandoned their posts and began to run here and there, trying to escape the crimson lightning. Even the peak 4th Order cultivators weren't spread. Multiple crimson lightning bolts hit the peak 4th Order soldiers and ended their lives. Some lucky ones did manage to survive by using their artifacts or weapons or by sacrificing other soldiers. Within a few seconds, more than 10,000 troops has been killed by Aditya even though he was more than 20 kilometers away. Using crimson lighting from such a far distance consumed more mana than usual. This is why Aditya never uses crimson lightning in this manner. But in the current situation, it was necessary for him to take such steps to defeat Arturo. Here it comes. Aditya thought as he charged at Arturo while wrapping his entire body within crimson flame. Aditya experienced a huge boost in his powers. His speed suddenly exploded. Arturo widened his eyes watching this. What happened? Suddenly he feels different. A cold sweat rolled down Arturo's neck as he stared at the crimson dragon who was charging at him. He could feel it, the current Aditya was as strong as him. In fact, in some areas, Arturo felt Aditya was superior to him. Not good. Arturo realized at the speed Aditya was currently moving, it would be nearly impossible to stop him. The Eastern Dragon took a deep breath and then opened its mouth. Aditya, who was charging at Arturo with his whole body covered in crimson flame, was met with a blue beam of frost energy. Instead of dodging, the Dragon Monarch took the attack head-on. The blue beam wasn't enough to stop him from charging. It did slow down his speed. He invested more mana to increase the temperature of his crimson flame and continued to force himself forward while taking the blue beam. At the same time, the sky strangely began to brighten. This caused everyone to look up at the sky. But Arturo was too busy firing the blue beam at Aditya. He refused to believe that Aditya can keep taking his attack and continue charging forward. More than 10,000 different colors of lightning bolts started gathering in one single point. The red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet colors lightning bolts started to fuse to form something even stronger and greater. Just like before, Arturo sensed something dangerous above his head. He stopped firing the blue beam and glanced up. The last thing that he saw before being struck by a powerful white bolt of lightning was a bright flash of light. Everyone gasped seeing the power of the white lightning bolt. Some even thought that this was the end of Arturo Travis. A moment later, as things calmed down, Aditya landed on the ground and looked at Arturo. The lightning bolt had forced Arturo to return to his original form. Under all the ice, dust, pebbles, and debris, Arturo was lying on the ground. Arturo's face was completely covered in blood. I guess the battle is over. Aditya looked at the place where Arturo was previously lying. The Arturo that was lying on the ground disappeared. Aditya sensed Arturo's aura behind him. Not good. Aditya knew that he cannot react in time to dodge or counter back. From the corner of his eyes, he could see a black spear aimed towards his head. Aditya knew that he needed to survive only for 3 seconds. Arturo couldn't land the final blow. The crimson lightning bolt turned into 7 lightning bolts and spread in 7 directions. Arturo felt very helpless. He thought he could take Aditya with him, but now he found that his opponent had another hidden move. He only had less than 2 seconds to live. It was impossible for him to survive at this point. Nothing in this world would be able to save his life at this point. He had traded his remaining life force to buy himself 3 seconds of 200% super boost. He could have used the teleportation crystal in his storage ring to retreat and fight Aditya after preparation. But he was so into this battle that he didn't wish to retreat. I guess this is it for me. Arturo closed his eyes. Arturo opened his eyes. The look on his face had completely changed. He had a crazy smile on his face. Aditya could tell that Arturo was about to do something crazy. He began to move away from Arturo. The 3 artifacts that Arturo was wearing suddenly began to glow very brightly. Compared to previous times, a powerful golden ball appeared. The golden ball was more than 500 meters big in size. It was so big that the golden ball could be seen from the other end of the Echo Nexus Empire. As the golden ball continued to grow in size, Aditya, who was in the form of lightning bolts, moved as fast as his body would allow. And it happened. The explosion was so big that everything within 25 kilometers was instantly wiped out. The Echo Nexus troops were caught in the explosion and almost all of the soldiers were instantly killed. A large mushroom cloud rose in the sky. The view of the starry sky had been blocked by a large cloud of dust. Fortunately, Aditya and his army were just out of the range. It could be said that Aditya and his troops barely managed to escape the explosion. Prime Minister Philip entered Lucas's bedroom by opening the door without first knocking or taking the Emperor's permission. Philip found the Emperor standing on his balcony and staring at the giant mushroom cloud that had covered the sky. Even though the capital of the Echo Nexus Empire is around 850 kilometers away from its eastern borders, even from such a long distance, the Emperor was able to see the explosion that destroyed an area of 25 kilometers. Philip took a deep breath to relax his nerves and stop his body from shaking. The news of Arturo's death was so shocking to Philip that he couldn't stop shaking in fear. His whole body was covered in sweat. His face looked pale. His eyes were full of fear. It was as if he had met the god of death. "Your Majesty, Arturo Travis is dead." Even though Philip tried, he couldn't stop his voice from being shaky, which showed how nervous and frightened he was. Arturo Travis was the very best that the Echo Nexus Empire had to offer. With Arturo Travis, the Echo Nexus Empire had nothing to fear. No one was able to challenge their rule. When Lucas decided to send Arturo to the eastern borders with 1 million troops under his command, Lucas trusted Arturo's abilities to the point where he didn't even monitor what was going on at the front line. Lucas did not reply. He kept staring at the sky. Within just a single day, he had lost too many things in life. In the beginning, he lost his dear son and his future heir to the enemy empire and watched him getting tortured by the enemy. Around 10 minutes passed in silence. In those 10 minutes of silence, Philip waited for the Emperor to say anything, but no words from his mouth were heard. No matter how much he run his brain, no matter how much he tried to look for a solution, his brain simply couldn't find an answer to their problem. At this point, the winner of this war already has been decided. If Lucas decides to stubbornly continue this war, then the Eastern Empire wouldn't stop till every single ally member of the Oracle Alliance, including the Echo Nexus Empire, has fallen into their hands. If they surrender, the enemy would demand some outrageous compensation. How to matter how I look at it, currently we are in a clear disadvantage situation. The intervention of the celestial terrain has limited our options. If we could use our other allies' powers and forces, then maybe we could have altered the outcome of this war. In all honesty, Philip was expecting this war to go on for months or even for years. But the war ended within a single day, although neither party has surrendered yet, meaning that the war is still ongoing. "Your Majesty, what should we do now?" But contrary to what Philip was expecting, the Emperor replied calmly and tiredly, "Sigh." After sighing, Lucas took out a bottle of red wine and a glass from his storage ring. "What else can we do now? Continuing this war would mean the end of us. Let's hope that our enemy doesn't demand anything outrageous." This marked the end of their dominance over the entire dying Al continent and the rise of a new powerhouse. But first, send my words to all of our allies. Meanwhile, "Your Majesty, are you all right?" Josh and Scott were the first ones to find Aditya. Josh and Scott found Aditya sitting on a rock and staring at the 25 kilometers giant crater. Looking around, Josh and Scott only saw chaos and destruction. This land will take a long time to heal and recover. Perhaps this big crater and the other smaller craters that our attacks have created will turn into big lakes. Over time, a new ecosystem will be built. Nature can balance everything in this world. Josh and Scott looked at each other, not understanding why the Emperor was talking about the land. "Today morning, when the war was declared, I thought this was going to be a long war for us. But this war turned out to be one of the shortest wars that we have fought." "Your Majesty, you mean?" "Yes, by tomorrow morning, the other party will surrender if he is smart enough to know what is good for him. Otherwise, I will personally kill them all." Aditya was so tired that he barely had enough energy to keep his eyes open. "Scott, stay here with Josh and be on standby mode. Let our troops rest." Scott nodded his head without showing any emotions. Meanwhile, Josh wasn't pleased about staying with Scott. After all, this dark elf always managed to find a way to get under his skin. "I will head back to the Dragon Palace." After Aditya left, Josh and Scott were about to head back when both of them sensed two presences approaching them. Sigh. "We are finally out of the forest. Man, that was exhausting. By the way, where are we?" Steve and Billy widened their eyes in shock seeing the enemy troops. "Enemy. Let's kill them quickly and head back." Scott placed one arrow. Wait. What?" Josh asked in a displeased tone. "We surrender. Please don't kill us. Please take us with you. Surrendering time over. You two can die." "Wait." This time Scott stopped them. "What?" Josh now looked even more displeased. "Since they have surrendered, let's take them back to the camp. There is no need to kill them." Unlike Josh, Scott thought more rationally. "Do whatever you want." Sigh. Scott sighed before lowering his bow. He knew that Josh has returned to the camp. Even if went somewhere else to cool his head, he won't be in any danger, so Scott wasn't worried. "Get up, you two. Let's go." Aditya couldn't keep his eyes open. He somehow teleported back to the Dragon Palace. With his eyes closed, he somehow found the bed and the comfortable pillow under his head. Just as he lay down, he fell into a deep sleep, not realizing that he had made a big mistake. Alicia's POV. I wish I could support Aditya in this war in any way. At first, Alicia wanted her father to send troops to help Aditya. Hearing these words, the goddess was extremely happy. In the end, Aditya asked Alicia to spread their battle results throughout every corner of the northwestern region. By controlling the flow of information, the Eastern Empire will be able to spread fear among the Oracle Alliance member empires. The trade and other activities with other regions and continents would have slowed down or stopped. The joint economy of the Oracle Alliance would have suffered devastating impacts during and after a time of war. Recently, my mother has been pestering me to return home. I am tired of this. Alicia, can you please do something to keep my mother busy? Sitting on the chair, the goddess looked very distressed when talking about her mother. Since leaving the main continent, Rhea never went out of the celestial terrain. The goddess had grown up there. Even though she wished to go out and explore other continents, her overprotective mother always stopped her from going. Growing up, Rhea never saw her father. She only had her mother. And her mother only had Rhea. Both of them supported each other emotionally. Both mother and daughter pair is really close. There weren't any secrets between the mother and daughter duo. Now that the goddess had come here, her mother must have been feeling very lonely. Hearing Rhea's words, Alicia raised her eyebrow and gave Rhea a silent look. Rhea sighed, feeling slightly annoyed, and tried about this whole matter. Every single day she is sending me multiple letters. At first, I tried to ignore her letters, but now it was becoming impossible to do so as she has been sending multiple letters each day. On the other hand, Julia was working. She made Lara lie down and then she began to carefully inspect her mana veins to see if there was any problem with her body. Each person and magic in this world had mana veins in their bodies. It was mana veins that allowed mana to circulate throughout the whole body and also allow all beings to draw pure mana from the atmosphere to cultivate. Mana veins were connected to the mana heart, which is the storage and main organ that allows a cultivator to draw pure mana from the atmosphere. Lara was observing the interaction between Alicia and Rhea. The more time she spends with her future sisters, the more comfortable she felt with them. Each sister had a distinct character and personality. Why do I feel as if you're trying to run away from your mother? Are you hiding something from us? Hearing this, even Julia also paused and looked at Rhea. I just want to stay here and spend more time with my beloved. The Ethereal Empire's princess grinned evilly as she took out a letter that was inside a blue envelope. Do you know what it is? What? The goddess asked back innocently. This is an invitation letter. Rhea still failed to understand what Alicia was hinting at. But Lara and Julia already understood. Knowing this, both girls had smiles on their faces. Who are you planning on inviting? Rhea curiously asked. You know, I feel bad for your poor mother who wants nothing but to see her daughter. So I have invited Her Highness to the Eastern Empire. I am sure she would be more than happy to come here and see her daughter. Hearing this, Rhea became agitated. If you dare to send this letter to my mother, then I will tell Aditya your little secret. Hearing this, Alicia's face visibly paled. This made Julia and Lara very curious. What secret are you talking about? Share it with us. Julia asked with a soft smile. Alicia is probably the smartest one in this room. It is extremely hard to win against her in any debate or in any argument. It was even harder to make Alicia lose her calm. This secret could be the weapon that Julia could use if she finds herself losing against Alicia. No, don't. Alicia wanted to stop Rhea, but she couldn't. After all, Rhea was the strongest one in this room. The ethereal princess can't stop the nature goddess through force. Despite looking so innocent and virtuous, our sister Alicia is secretly a pervert. What? Seeing Julia and Lara's shocked faces, Alicia's entire face turned red from embarrassment. She buried her face in between her palms. Seeing Alicia like this, Rhea was very happy. With a beautiful smile, she continued. Whenever she is alone in her room, she is always masturbating. I have even found many dirty novels in her bedroom. The revelation was very shocking to Julia and Lara. Neither of them would have guessed that Alicia is secretly a pervert. Please stop. A small voice reached the ears of the other three. Not even her personal maid knows about this. After masturbating, she fell asleep. She completely forgot to clean the mess that she had made. And that morning Rhea came to wake her up in the absence of her personal maid who had returned to West Nia to complete Alicia's order. It's over. My reputation, my image and everything. Alicia was regretting the mistake she made. Alicia read erotic novels to relieve her stress. Over time, she had found herself slightly addicted and unable to stop. Nowadays, she imagines Aditya while masturbating. Alicia, there is nothing to be ashamed about. You don't need to feel embarrassed. Hearing this, she raised her head and looked at Julia, who was speaking like an old woman with 1,000 years of experience. Dragon Monarch System. Dragon Monarch System. After having breakfast, the goddess hurried to her bedroom. As for what she was doing in her bedroom, everyone can easily guess. Seeing her, he gently smiled. But his smile was met with a cold glare. It seems she is still angry at me for giving her those love bites. You finally came. I thought you were going to take the entire day. Not that I mind if you did that, but in a few hours, we are going somewhere. Hearing his words, the goddess gave him a hateful glare before standing in front of him. And whose fault it is that I have to spend. Hearing this, Aditya innocently looked at Alicia and replied. Don't blame me. If only a certain person hadn't moaned sweetly to my ears, I would have stopped a long time ago. You shouldn't pee you. Aditya found his mouth shut by the goddess both hands. Looking at her face, her whole face was completely red. Even her ears had turned slightly red. Shut up, idiot. Why are you describing everything? Alicia realized that this wolf greatly enjoyed teasing her. Aditya used his free hand to pull Alicia towards him. The goddess found herself sitting on his thighs. What are you doing? Alicia felt even more embarrassed. As they were doing this in front of Watson and the maids who were cleaning at the moment. Aditya couldn't reply as his mouth was shut by her hands. He only pulled Alicia closer and made her chest press against his chest. Watson turned around and pretended to not see anything. I can help you with this. Aditya was talking about helping her fix her kimono. Alicia glared at Aditya knowing that this pervert was only looking for another chance to molest her in front of others. After she was done, instead of sitting next to Aditya, the goddess sat opposite him. Lady Alicia, would you like to have a cup of green tea? Watson politely asked from behind. No, thank you, Watson. Alright. If there is nothing else, I would excuse myself. After giving a short bow to Aditya, Watson went to the kitchen. Just like you told me, I have cleaned all of my plans for today. Thank you. Hearing this, a smile bloomed on her face. Is there any need for thanks? If we don't help each other, then who will? Aditya also smiled and then nodded his head. Aditya put the teacup on the table. And then stood up. Alicia watched as he walked towards her. The next second her smile froze as he gently lifted her chin and kissed her. The kiss ended around 5 minutes later. When it ended, Aditya had returned to his seat. Did you like it? The goddess replied with a glare. This made him smile. Aditya continued playing and teasing Alicia until Watson interrupted them. Your Majesty, we have received a letter from the Oracle Alliance. With a letter in his hand, Watson made his way towards Aditya. Only around 2,000 people call this frozen island home. The Anna Maria Islands are home to ice elves, snow bears, and yetis. When both empires claimed these islands are their territories, more people settled in these islands. According to a rough estimation, there were a total of 900 ice elves inhabiting the Anna Maria Islands. And the rest 1,100 were mostly fishermen and hunters who came here to hunt snow bears and yetis. Fishermen sometimes stay at one of the Anna Maria Islands for a few days and then after catching sufficient fish they mostly return to the mainland. Over time there were some fishermen that moved to the Anna Maria Islands with their families and started living there. The same could be said for hunters. Hunters are different from adventurers. The hunters of the Anna Maria Islands are experts at hunting snow bears, but because of overhunting, the population of the snow bears has started to decline. There was a time when all 14 islands were filled with snow bears. But now the population of snow bears had dropped significantly. Before the mainland people came to the Anna Maria Islands, the ice elves lived peacefully with the snow bears. It wasn't uncommon for the 14 tribes to trade with each other or also with foreign traders for their goods. So far there hasn't been any solution for this. Neither empires put any focus on listening to the demands and the wants of the ice elves. The ice elves were ignored by both empires. Instead both empires focused on fighting each other on their claims of these 14 islands. The Blackburn village was located on one of the small islands. The Blackburn village is where one of the 14 ice elves lived. After the mainland people came, the tribe leader let the outsiders live in their village. As time passed and the situation of the islands became chaotic. Because of the decline in the population of snow bears, the ice elves were losing their source of food. This created a hostile situation between the ice elves and the mainland people. And today something very important was going to take place in the Blackburn village. The ice elven tribe leader knew and saw this as an opportunity to try and communicate with the emperor. Around 8.30 the Oracle Alliance sent a letter to the Eastern Empire. In that letter, the alliance stated its intention to surrender and end this war. And it was decided that the Blackburn village was going to be the place where the meeting will take place. The meeting was scheduled to take place around 3:00 in the afternoon. Also, the reason he came a few hours early has another reason as well. Before the meeting started, he was going to use this free time to take Alicia out and spend some time with her. From the far distance, the ice elves and some fishermen at the dock noticed a big ship approaching their island. I have never seen such a big ship before. Of course, how can you see such a big ship when you have never left this place and gone out to explore the outside world? There isn't any need for such big ships to stop on these small islands. The wooden ship was 59.7 meters in length and the beam of the ship was 13.2 meters. As the ship neared, the elven tribe patriarch noticed that the ship had around 50 soldiers. So powerful. The people of the mainland are on a completely different level. Even our best archer can be easily defeated by the weakest among them. As the ice elves had never gone out, they have never seen powerful cultivators. Under everyone's eyes, the Eastern Emperor himself walked down. He was holding the hand of a young beautiful lady who had covered her face with a veil. Behind her, there was an average-looking young man. As Aditya stepped on Eldoria Island, the patriarch of the elven tribe stepped forward and bowed to Aditya. Welcome to this small Eldoria Island. It's an honor to meet you. All 14 islands are collectively known as the Anna Maria Islands. Every 14 islands had their own names given by elven tribes. Everyone raise your head. Thank you for hosting us. My apologies for causing you trouble. Seeing the emperor apologizing and being so humble, the patriarch and others were very surprised. Your Majesty, there is no need to apologize. It is our honor to serve you. Aditya just nodded his head. Raise your hand. Introduce yourself. Your Majesty, my name is Sam Zerfra. I am the patriarch of this small elven tribe. Aditya nodded his head. The next second Sam found a bag of cold coins in his hands. Your Majesty, this. All the elves and the fishermen looked at Aditya in shock. Keep this. I am sure your tribe will need this money. Knowing the dire situation of this tribe, this money was exactly what they all needed. The patriarch almost cried. He was so moved by Aditya's kindness. Thank you. So this is the place where the meeting is going to take place. Aditya and others stopped in front of the small two-story wooden house. The wooden house was 5,000 square feet, 464.5152 square meters, in size. My apologies if this doesn't suit your liking. Feeling slightly embarrassed, the Ice Elven tribe leader Sam apologized to Aditya. This was the first time that their tribe was hosting someone so powerful and influential. Sam knew that this house isn't much in the eyes of an emperor. The house is majestically on a sprawling land surrounded by tall trees which were covered in a layer of snow. The exterior is clad in cedar siding, creating a warm and natural appeal. I like this house. It's pretty. Alicia replied while looking at the house. Yeah. Aditya also felt the same. We will explore this island. Your Majesty, would you like me to send someone to show you around? There won't be any need for that. We will return before the meeting starts. Seeing Aditya and Alicia leaving, Sam had some doubts in his head. So he decided to ask the Prime Minister about it. Sir Spencer, can I ask you something if you don't mind? Spencer could tell what Sam wanted to ask him. He was sharp enough to read the thoughts on Sam's face. Yes, Lady Alicia is His Majesty's second fiancée. As for Lady Alicia's identity, I can't reveal it to you. Hearing this, Sam nodded his head. It wasn't that surprising. After all, he had heard that it was very normal for an emperor to have multiple wives. He even heard of a king who had 100 wives and concubines in some legends. It would be strange if Aditya didn't have a fiancée or any wife even though he is only 19. In noble societies, it is quite normal to get engaged or married at Aditya's age. Tribe leader, I am afraid you will have to let us search this entire house and the surrounding area. You know, for safety measures. Sam did not stop Spencer. He understood that he would do the same if he was in Spencer's position. After all, this was the first time the emperor had set foot on his island. And given the ongoing conflict, it was normal for the Eastern Empire to be cautious. I understand. I leave someone here to make sure everything goes smoothly. I appreciate that. Spencer thanked Sam. He knew that this meeting was mentally and physically burdening all the Ice Elven tribe members and the fishermen that live in the Blackburn village. Scene change __. While walking around the village, Aditya and Alicia came across many things. The village didn't lack any trees. As they continued walking, they came across many kinds of ice elves. According to Sam, this tribe had 27 ice elves. A few weeks back their population was 28, but one of their tribe female married another tribesman and left this tribe to live with her husband. Among the 14 Anna Maria Icelands, intercaste marriage was a very common thing. The population of the ice elves never went past 500 in these 14 islands. One of the main reasons for this is their low birth rate. And the other reasons were the size of the islands and the lack of food. Ice elves in general have white hair and pale skin. Their ancestors' genes must have changed to adapt to the cold environment. Over a long period of time, the ice elves had developed resistance to cold temperatures and could live in such places without needing to wear thick clothes. All the ice elves were thin and tall in size. Almost every adult ice elves was carrying a bow and arrows with them. Being ice elves, they had a natural talent in archery and in using ice magic. What do you think of this place? Aditya asked. As they walked around, they had become the center of focus. Even though this was a big village, there were very few people living in it. I like this place. Even though it's slightly cold out here, it's quiet and peaceful. I would say that this place is perfect for vacation. If you want, then I can build a small house on this island. We can come here to relax and spend our free time here. Alicia smiled and replied. That sounds like a perfect idea. Then I will leave everything to your hands, my dear husband. Hearing the last part, Aditya found his body pulling Alicia's towards him. The next second, Alicia found herself kissed by Aditya. Around a minute later, Alicia couldn't continue anymore. As she felt the stares of the people. So she pushed Aditya away and then lowered her head face. Aditya then noticed that a group of ice elves were staring at them. He took her hand and then continued walking. A few minutes later, when they were alone, Alicia looked at him in hatred. What? Aditya asked. Why did you do that? I don't know, what are you talking about? I only kissed my wife. Knowing that she can't continue arguing with this man, she gave up. Listen, Aditya, you can't keep doing this. What people will think if you keep on doing this so openly? Like I care what the people think about me. But still you can't. Aditya stopped her by pinching both of her cheeks. Stop thinking what others think about you. The people will say 100 different things about you. You can't live to impress them. Understood? Alicia nodded her head. Now, let's go outside the village. Scene change __________________________________________________________________________________________________________ Jonah, I heard some rumors about you getting engaged. Is this true? Having nothing else to do, Spencer started a conversation with the soldiers. The soldier named Jonah is one of the first 100 Dragonians. Yes, sir. We are planning on getting married at the end of this month. That's nice. Why do I feel as if nowadays everyone around me is suddenly getting married? It's not just you, sir. A new trend has started. Many of the soldiers are suddenly getting married and starting their own families in the capital. Only people like us are left behind. Spencer also felt what the soldier was saying was true. Sir Spencer, when are you planning on getting married? Me? And getting married? I am not sure. Even Spencer looked confused about this part. As the question was asked, a beautiful ice elf was approaching them. I don't know. Maybe having a family isn't meant for me. But the girl named Arya Windrider listened to Spencer's answer. Looking at Spencer's face, Arya became slightly interested in him. She was attracted to Spencer. Arya lightly coughed to get Spencer's attention. Spencer, who was deeply lost in his thoughts, snapped out of it. Spencer's eyes fell on Arya. As both of their eyes met, he for the first time in his life felt attracted to a girl. It wasn't her beauty that attracted him. It was something in her that made him attracted to her. Arya Windrider is 21 years old. She was 5 feet 4 inches tall girl. Compared to Spencer, she looked short. She had long white silver hair that she had tied into a bun. Arya's dress consisted of 2 parts, a bodice and a skirt. For a moment Spencer looked dazed staring at her. My apologies. How can I help you? Arya slightly smiled seeing this and replied. I have been sent with the key. Thank you. Taking the key from Arya, Spencer gave it to Jonah. Search every single corner of the house. If you find anything suspicious or feel that something is off, report it to me immediately. Did I make myself clear? After the doors were opened, all the doors went inside. Spencer and Arya remained outside. Spencer took out a small notebook. He opened the notebook and began to write something on it. Seeing Spencer being so focused, Arya couldn't help but feel curious. May I ask, what are you doing, sir? Nothing important. To make sure that I am not forgetting any important tasks, I have developed a habit of writing them down. Oh. After answering, Spencer realized that normally he wouldn't answer such questions. He closed the notebook and put it inside his storage ring before turning to Arya. May I ask, what is your name? Seeing that Spencer was finally interested in her, Arya smiled and sweetly replied. It's Arya Windrider. Arya, that's a really nice name. Spencer muttered without even realizing that Arya had heard what he said. Well, thank you. Can I know your full name? It's Spencer. Spencer Newman. Spencer is a nice name. Thank you. Arya, can I ask you something? What is it? Arya tilted her head and looked at Spencer. I heard that every ice elf are expert at hunting and archery. Is that true? Ha ha ha. From where did you hear such nonsense? Seeing this, Spencer felt a little bit embarrassed for asking such a silly question. Not everyone is good at hunting and archery. Yes, we are blessed with the natural talent of archery. But without training, we are not that good. In this tribe, out of the 27 members, only 15 of them are proper archers, and among them, only a few of them are experts at hunting. I see. Sir Spencer, can I ask you something? You can drop the part and just call me Spencer. I don't mind at all. And go ahead. I will try my best to answer your question. Arya smiled and nodded her head. Are you single? No. Spencer replied casually. Do you have any crush or anyone whom you love? Although Spencer didn't understand why Arya was asking such questions. I don't have a crush. Hearing this, Spencer found Arya smiling even more. Why is she so happy? The next second, Arya took a step forward and came close to Spencer. If you're free, then I can show you around this island. As much as I would like to accept your offer, I can't. But if I manage to complete my work before the meeting starts, then maybe I can spare some time for you. Hearing this, Arya looked slightly disappointed, but she didn't show it on her face. She was interrupted by a loud voice. Spencer and Arya both frowned and looked at the person who just called her. It was the son of the elven tribe leader. Seeing Santar, Arya stepped back. Spencer noticed and also noticed the displeased look on her face. Santar walked up to Spencer and Arya with a jealous look. Sir, I would like you to stay away from my fiancé. You're our respected guest. Please stay that way. Hearing this, the frown on Spencer's face grew. Spencer felt like slapping this arrogant ant. Hearing that Arya was engaged, Spencer felt some pain in his heart. He felt uncomfortable. It was very difficult to explain in words. For the first time, in his life, he had experienced such emotions. Santar, don't speak nonsense. I never agreed to become your fiancé. Stop making things up. I am free to choose whoever I like. Spencer couldn't understand the meaning behind the latter part of her words. He failed to understand that the last part was meant for him. Hearing that Arya wasn't Santar's fiancé, the discomfort that he felt disappeared. Spencer felt happy and lighthearted. You dare to talk back to me. According to the customs of this tribe, as the son of the tribe leader, I am free to choose any woman from this tribe to marry. And I have made up my mind to choose you. And you should know very well that you can't disobey the tribe's rules. Hearing this, Arya looked extremely sad. She forcefully bit her lips to stop her tears. Now come with me. Father is looking for you. Without giving her any chance, he grabbed Arya's hand and took her away. Spencer felt complicated as he watched Arya leave. His heart was a mess. He wanted to punch Santar, but he also realized that this wasn't the place. He wasn't sure of his emotions. He was very dense in such matters. Release my hand. Arya was angry and also sad. She did not like Santar at all. Although Sam was very kind and caring towards everyone when it came to his only son, that kindness blinded him from seeing the arrogant attitude that his son had developed over the years. All the tribe members were troubled by Santar's arrogant attitude. Once Arya and Santar were far away, Santar finally released her hand. Ara, I won't repeat my words again. You're the most beautiful woman on this island. I like you as a woman and I desire you as a mate and a partner. As a son of the tribe leader, I have every right to choose my future partner. You can't refuse me. Refusing me would be same as breaking the tribe's rules. And you know very well what happens to the people that break the tribe's rules. Arya lowered her head and gritted her teeth in anger. The only way you can get out of this mess would be if someone from outside the tribe proposes your hand in marriage and my father agrees to that. The possibility of that happening is next to zero. Within a month, we will get married. Till then, be a good girl and stay away from that bastard. In this tribe, women are heavily oppressed. From the top of a wooden house, Spencer watched the interaction between Suntar and Era. Seeing her cry, Spencer didn't feel good about it. Time to go back to work. A few hours later. Did you enjoy yourself? Aditya asked. I enjoyed myself. It's relaxing here. If only there was a hot spring in this place. Hot spring. Well, this island does have an inactive volcano, but I don't think we can find hot spring water anywhere. I have never heard of anyone making an artificial hot spring before. It's possible. My bloodline gives me the power to control the temperature of my body. If I manage to invent a new rune magic that runs on mana stones to heat the water, then creating a hot spring is possible. Sometimes, I keep on forgetting that you're one of the best rune masters in this world. Thank you for the compliment. Aren't you super busy all the time? How would you have time to make something insignificant as this? Alicia asked in a mocking tone. Hearing this, Aditya helplessly smiled. He also realized that because of his work, he has been neglecting Alicia and Rhea. This was true for especially Alicia, as she also had work to do. Being the richest merchant on the planet meant that she had a ton of work on her plate as well. Julia at least gets some time with him when they are sleeping together and during their night exercise time. This is why, ever since he returned, he has been trying his best to balance everything. For you, my dear, I always have time. Let's make a big mansion on this island. Our mansion will be located on the other side of the island, far from this village. So that not only you and me but also others can come here and enjoy themselves. That's a good idea. While talking, both of them returned to the Blackburn village. By now the Echo Dominion Emperor has arrived along with Adam and his Prime Minister. Good afternoon, Your Majesty. Here I was thinking that I had arrived first on this island, but unexpectedly, Aditya already had arrived here 2 hours ago. Good afternoon. I have nothing else to do, so I thought why not spend this time touring this island with my beautiful fiancée. Hearing this, Spencer's right eye twitched. These days, all of His Majesty's work has fallen on my shoulders. Sometimes, Spencer is so busy that he barely gets enough time to have his food or even go back to his bedroom to sleep. Daxton raised an eyebrow and looked at the black-haired girl with very attractive emerald eyes. Good afternoon, father. I hope you're in good health. Alicia politely walked up to Adam and then greeted him like a good daughter. Alicia. It seems you're finally taking a break. It's good. You should keep taking a break once in a while. Otherwise, you will mentally tire yourself out. Watching them interact, Daxton and his Prime Minister felt as if Adam had met his real daughter. This made Daxton confirm his guess about Adam meeting Alicia before. He must have met her when visiting the Eastern Empire. Daxton thought in his mind. Don't worry, father. From now on, I am planning on doing that. That's good to hear. How are Julia and others doing? It has been only 3 or 4 days since Adam returned to his territory. And so much had happened in these 3/4 days. The Dragon Slayer Guild was destroyed. A huge war was fought and also won by the Eastern Empire. Julia is doing fine. She is busy researching a cure. Others are doing well. Father, you should visit us with mother. After all, last time, you couldn't enjoy your stay at the Eastern Empire. My daughter, I can't come right now. Once this meeting ends, I have a feeling that for the next 2/3 months, I will be super busy. Maybe after that, I can find some time to come. You know, you all can come and stay in my castle. The doors of my castle are always open for you. Hearing this, Alicia smiled. Adam has been really nice to her and Rhea. Alicia also respected Adam almost like a real father. That also goes the same for you, Aditya. When I have time I will come to visit you. Brat, even if you're the emperor of the strongest empire of this continent, if I hear that you have treated either of my daughters unfairly, I am coming for your head. My daughter, if this man bullies you, then don't hesitate to tell me. Alright? Sending a mischievous look to Aditya, Alicia confidently nodded her head. I don't mean to interfere, but... It was then Adam, Alicia, and Aditya remembered about Daxton and his Prime Minister. Sorry, I forgot. Adam scratched his head while laughing. Daxton's right eye twitched in response. Forgive me for the late introduction. This is my second fiancée. Her name is Alicia. Aditya did not mention anything about Alicia's background. It was agreed that the identities of the goddess will be kept secret from the public. Aditya isn't sure how Daxton would feel if he knows that the goddess of wealth and the goddess of nature is his second and third future wife. Daxton also noticed this. Since Aditya was keeping Alicia's family name and background a secret, he didn't ask for it. He respected Aditya's secret. After all, he wasn't obligated to tell him his every secret. Every man had their own secret. Hello. Alicia politely bowed to Daxton. Daxton nodded his head in response. His Majesty Adian Scott and his entourage have arrived. Everyone's attention fell on the king of the Hephaestus Kingdom's king. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I didn't expect both of you to come so early. Soon the 2 emperors and 1 king found themselves talking among themselves. Scene change ______. In an hour, the meeting will start. In this meeting, we have the advantage. I have prepared a list of things that I want to demand from the Oracle Alliance and its members. Since both of you have helped me, of course, I am going to share some parts of the compensation with you too. Aditya, I want to add one thing. What you would like to add? Aditya curiously asked. Since the opponent has surrendered, the Oracle Alliance will be forced to pay compensation to Aditya and his allies. The compensation may be in the form of land, money, slaves, cultivation techniques, skill books, artifacts, or any valuable thing that the Oracle Alliance has under their control. For decades now, my empire is in conflict with the Mystic Spring Empire on the control of the Anna Maria Islands. I was forced to settle with 7 islands and the other 7 islands were forcefully taken away by the Mystic Spring Empire. I want total control of the Anna Maria Islands. Daxton made his intentions clear. The Anna Maria Islands was a good location for the Echo Dominion Empire. Using the Anna Maria Islands, the Echo Dominion Empire would be able to launch an attack on the Mystic Spring Empire from the sea as well. Also, if the Anna Maria Islands are in Daxton's hands, then no one could use this location to block the foreign ships that come to his empire. Since we're talking about the Anna Maria Islands, there is something that I want to ask you. What is it? Daxton curiously asked. Aditya also looked very curious. He also wanted to know what Aditya wanted. This is more like a request. Go on. I will try my best to fulfill your request. I want this island. Aditya knew that if Daxton fulfilled his request, then in the future he will owe him one. And Aditya was perfectly alright with that idea. Can I ask you why? My fiancé likes this place. Not to mention, Aditya also likes this island. I don't mind. From this point onwards, this island will belong to the Eastern Empire. Thank you. Daxton nodded his head. Scene change ____. In the living room, the members of the Oracle Alliance, the Eastern Emperor, the Echo Dominion Emperor, and the Hephaestus Kingdom's king all were sitting on the couches and chairs. It's my and my tribe's honor to have you all on this small island. First of all, I would like to apologize if this isn't up to your standard. Sam bowed his head to show his sincerity. Like I told you from the beginning. There is no need to apologize. We chose this location. If anything, it is us who is burdening you and your tribe with our presence. If there is nothing else, then you can get out and let us start this meeting. In an annoyed tone, Lucas told the tribe leader to leave the room. From Lucas's tone, one can easily tell that the Echo Nexus Emperor is very annoyed and displeased. After Sam left, Lucas directly looked at Aditya and asked. Tell me what you and your allies want. Daxton and Aiden turned to Aditya. Neither of them spoke anything. This matter started between the Eastern Empire and the Echo Nexus Empire. Both emperors were the major power holders in this war and hence had the right to speak while others listened. You sound very important, Your Majesty. And here I was thinking of having lunch with everyone. I don't have for such nonsense. Now tell me, what do you want? Since you're being so impatient, then let my Prime Minister tell you what we want from the Oracle Alliance. Here it comes. Prime Minister Philip thought in his mind. He could only pray that the opponent doesn't demand too much. Aditya looked at Spencer and nodded his head. Spencer took out a golden scroll from his storage ring. Meanwhile, the members of the Oracle Alliance and Lucas himself were curious about the identity of the mysterious woman who was sitting next to Aditya. From the looks of it, Aditya was very close to this woman. So it was very possible that this woman was Aditya's wife. But as far as they knew, Aditya was engaged to Duke Adam's daughter, who is famously known as the goddess of alchemy. Even though they had questions, no one asked anything due to their pride. The Eastern Empire and its allies will accept the surrender of the Oracle Alliance if only the Oracle Alliance agrees to do the following. 1. First of all, the Mystic Spring Empire will give the Anna Maria Islands to the Echo Dominion Empire. The Mystic Spring Empire or any member of the Oracle Alliance won't have any rights to conduct any military exercise around the Anna Maria Islands. If any soldiers or spies from the Mystic Spring Empire or any member of the Oracle Alliance are found near the Anna Maria Islands, then it will be seen as a threat to the Echo Dominion Empire and its allies. In case this was to happen, the Echo Dominion Empire and its allies will immediately take action against the Mystic Spring Empire. Hearing this, the Mystic Spring Empire easily agreed and had no problem with these conditions. Although the Anna Maria Islands were valuable assets to the Mystic Spring Empire, giving up the remaining 7 islands was still acceptable in the Emperor's opinion. I agree. The Mystic Spring Emperor easily agreed. Next. 2. The Echo Nexus Empire will give ownership of the Obi Islands to the Eastern Empire. The Echo Nexus Empire won't have any right to conduct any military exercise near the Obi Islands. If any soldiers or spies or anyone from the military of the Echo Nexus Empire or any member of the Oracle Alliance are found near the Obi Islands, then it will be seen as a threat to the Eastern Empire and its allies. After Spencer ended his words, everyone's eyes were on Lucas. The Obi Islands weren't just small islands like the Anna Maria Islands. The Obi Islands were almost big as the mainland territory of the Queenstown Empire. Giving up the ownership of the Obi Islands would be a huge loss for the Echo Nexus Empire. The Obi Island is the largest island in the northwestern region. The Obi Islands are 2 islands. One big island and another very small island. The second island is slightly larger than Eldoria Island. Both islands are often considered one big island, as the distance between both islands is really small. One can go to the small Obi Island just by swimming. The Obi Islands are known for their stunning natural landscapes, unique culture, and delicious cuisine. The Obi Island is renowned for its breathtaking natural scenery. It is characterized by vast open spaces, rolling hills, and rugged mountains. The Obi Island experiences a cooler climate compared to the rest of the mainland. The Obi Island boasts a rich diversity of magic wildlife. There are magic brown bears, magic deer, magic foxes, and various magic bird species. The Obi Island is renowned for its hot springs, which are scattered throughout the island. Obi Island is also home to the largest dwarf population in the dying Al continent. A major reason why the Echo Nexus Empire's military is so powerful has to do with the dwarves that make high-quality weapons and armor for the Echo Nexus Empire. The Obi Islands have the second biggest gold mine. Most importantly, Obi Island also has an Ethereum mine. Throughout the entire Dying Isle continent, only the Echo Nexus Empire has Ethereum mine. In short words, the Obi Islands were simply too valuable for the Echo Nexus Empire. If in case another war breaks out, this time the Echo Nexus Empire will be attacked from two sides. Impossible. There is no way I am going to give up the Obi Islands. Lucas immediately refused. The Obi Islands were simply too valuable. You don't have any other choice. Meeting Aditya's cold red eyes, Lucas slightly shivered in fear. He felt frightened. He had no choice but to look away. What else do you want? Lucas asked. While keeping his eyes on Lucas, Aditya signaled Spencer to keep reading. 3. The Mythia Empire will give ownership of the Catalina Islands to the Hephaestus Kingdom. If any soldiers or spies from the Mythia Empire or any member of the Oracle Alliance are found near the Catalina Islands, then it will be seen as a threat to the Hephaestus Kingdom and its allies. In case this was to happen, the Hephaestus Kingdom and its allies will immediately take action against the Mythia Empire. Aditya and his Prime Minister were very surprised to hear this. After all, the Hephaestus Kingdom did not provide much help in this war. It was the Isteran troops and Aditya who defended his kingdom and also won the war. If anything, his soldiers were more like a burden to everyone and were hindering their progress. For this, Aditya feels very ashamed. Aditya thought that he had made his intentions clear. In exchange for siding with the Isteran Empire, he wanted Aditya's help in rebuilding his kingdom and getting rid of all waste. The Catalina Islands? The Mythia Emperor was surprised. Just like the Obi Islands are very important to the Echo Nexus Empire, the Catalina Islands were important to the Mythia Empire. The central part of the northwestern region was very hot and dry due to numerous factors. Your Majesty, with all due respect, giving up the Catalina Islands would be the end of my empire. Really, thank you very much to all. Your Majesty, with all due respect, giving up the Catalina Islands would be the end of my empire. We would be struggling to make ends. The food prices are going to rise and millions of people are going to starve to death. Don't pretend as if you care about your people. If you really cared for your people, then you wouldn't have increased the tax rate in your empire. You have been squeezing money from the common class people. If you lower the tax rate, then your people would be able to afford food and other commodities. Hearing this, Jonathan's face turned ugly. Whatever Aditya said just now was very true. In the whole continent, his empire had the highest tax rate. Every year millions of people were sold as slaves due to high taxes. And anyway, I am not giving up the Catalina Island. Aditya coldly looked at Jonathan for a moment. Spencer, continue reading. For the Oracle Alliance shall give 12 billion gold coins as compensation to the Isteran Empire and its allies. Each alliance member will have to pay 2 billion gold coins as compensation. The 12 billion gold can be paid in cash or in the form of assets. The money has to be paid within 1 week. Hearing this, all the other emperors looked at Lucas. 12 billion gold coins? Hee hee. Everyone turned their eyes at Alicia, who had remained silent up to this moment. Eric Darkwood, if I remember correctly, then recently you spent 100 million gold coins building a gold statue of yourself that is over 70 meters tall height, and you also have secretly bought 200 million worth of gold from the Echo Nexus Empire to build multiple gold statues of yourselves and your wife. Apart from Aditya, no one really has seen the guild leader of the. Alicia went to meet Aditya because she was somewhat curious about her finance, who had suddenly changed. This isn't true. Eric immediately refused. Eric Darkwood was the emperor of the Queenstown Empire. The Queenstown Empire is thought to be the poorest member of the alliance. But it turned out, Eric has been hiding his wealth. Hearing Alicia's words, others looked at Lucas and Eric in a mix of shock and surprise. Yes, it's true. Since the matter was out, there was no reason to hide it. But you said that in order to build that statue you had to take a big debt. You said something about fulfilling your dreams. Eric did not reply. He instead lowered his head and kept quiet. That's not all. Last year, your empire earned a whopping 700 million gold coins in profits just by selling starfire berries. Eric, is that true? Starfire berries are a special type of magic fruit that only grows in the vast Mana Islands, which are under the control of Eric. The starfire berries are highly valuable due to their demand. But last year, Eric told everyone that due to a lack of rain, there has been a decrease in the production of starfire berries. Your Majesty, this isn't true at all. This bitch is telling lies. This bitch shouldn't be here. This by. Lucas only saw a blur when the next second, Eric, who had been sitting on his left, was sent flying. Everyone saw Aditya standing. Outside, the ice elves who were around the house were shocked to find the Queenstown Emperor lying in the snow 100 meters away. His face was completely disfigured. He was grunting like an animal that was about to die. Isteran Emperor, why did you do that? However, Aditya did not back down. How dare that bastard disrespect my wife? Seeing all this, other emperors slowly backed down in fear. Even Alicia was stunned seeing Aditya's anger. Hearing this, Lucas instantly began to regret his outburst. The look in Aditya's eyes told him that he and his allies were screwed. If things have come to this, then I have no choice but to use it. Isteran Emperor, you leave me with no choice. Lucas suddenly let out a loud painful scream. It was as if he was in great pain. The aura was very cold and sinister. Lucas's eyes turned black. His skin color turned black. The mana in his body began to change its nature. Lucas suddenly let out a loud painful scream. It was as if he was in great pain. No one could explain what was going on. Even Aditya felt a big threat from this man. Get out of here, Aditya told his allies to leave. Too late. I hope you liked my gift. Alicia suddenly found herself hugged by Aditya. A huge explosion shook the core of the island. Alicia felt her whole body was in pain. Opening her eyes, the first thing that she saw was his relieved face. However, seeing him like this, Alicia panicked. Her hands felt something wet. She widened her eyes in shock seeing his blood in her hands. Aditya focused entirely on saving Alicia. With so little time on his hand, the first thing that he prioritized was saving the woman who had loved. Aditya, Alicia panicked seeing Aditya in such a horrible state. Aditya groaned in pain and then replied. I am not planning on dying this soon. At least not until I give you a dragon baby. This isn't the time to joke, open your mouth. She took out a glass tube that was filled with a green liquid. The green liquid was peak 5-star healing potion. As the potion reached down his throat, all of his injuries rapidly began to heal. Everything within 25 meters radius was completely destroyed. Aditya gently put Fabian on the ground. He held his hand and gently asked. Fabian, talk to me. Fabian had used this body to protect Aditya. Unlike Aditya, he wasn't that lucky. Thank you for your years of service, my dear Prime Minister. Fabian had served Aditya's father for a long time. Pushing the debris, Daxton stood up and removed the jacket that he was wearing. Are you alright, Your Majesty? Daxton rolled his eyes and replied. Before asking, you should look at yourself. It appears Duke Elliot Campbell wasn't that lucky. Never thought that this old man would go out this way. Adam's body began healing after he ate a 5-star healing pill that his daughter made for him. Jonathan, are you still alive? Lying under the debris of the wooden house, the Emperor of Queenstown called his friend. Although Eric had hidden many things from Jonathan, he still considered Jonathan a good friend. Pushing away the wooden dune, Jonathan showed his pained face. Yeah. Eric was lying injured on the ground. What the hell was that? I don't want to be part of this shitty alliance anymore. Yeah. After all this is over, I am leaving this alliance. The only party benefiting from this alliance is Lucas and his empire. Are you sure about that? A hideous voice reached both Eric and Jonathan's ears. Both of their backs stiffened. Who are you? The monster in front of them was 3 meters tall. The diamond-shaped crystal was in the middle of his chest. The monster in front of them looked very ugly. The monster had a sinister aura. Who am I? That's a stupid question. Just a few seconds ago, you two were talking about betraying me. It was then that both Eric and Jonathan realized that this monster was none other than the monster's giant palms grabbed their faces. Lucas, please don't kill us. For decades, we have been loyal to you and only you. We have served and we will have service to the alliance leader. Lucas momentarily stopped before looking at Eric and Jonathan's faces. Unfortunately, it's too late for that. Eric and Jonathan's bodies started to wither. I barely received anything. What a waste these two were. Eric and Jonathan's bodies had turned withered corpses. Time to hunt for some more meals. How are you doing? Are you alright? Are you still in pain? Aditya just nodded his head. Thanks to Alicia's quick actions, his injuries had 40% healed. Within a few more minutes, his body should be completely healed. Seeing Aditya trying to stand up, with his enhanced senses, he could feel that many people had died in this explosion. Aditya. Yeah, I can also feel its presence. There is no way I won't be able to feel his hideous and sinister aura. How did Lucas suddenly turn into that monster? Alicia heard Aditya's question. But before she could say anything, her eyes suddenly became dazed and lost focus. Let us escape this prison. I can't wait to return to Earth and conquer the 7 continents once again. Alicia suddenly found herself having a vision. In her vision, she saw millions of black humanoid-looking monsters with large bat wings and horns on top of their heads, in a place where lava was flowing in place of a river, and where the sky was red. It was a different world. No ordinary human would be able to survive in such a place. All of these monsters were locked in cages. Amidst all the screaming and shouting, suddenly a wave of golden flame came from the sky. It's over for us. We are finished. All the monsters screamed. The flame then consumed every single one of the monsters. And just like that, millions of monsters were killed. What the hell was that? The vision lasted for a few seconds. Even though it was a vision, she still remembered many details. That flame looked similar to the hellfire that the members of my family are capable of using. Alicia was a fire mage herself. She had been using the hell flame with her spells. Because of the hell flame, any fire type skills that she uses don't consume too much of her mana. But it was much more powerful. Alicia, I am going to face this monster. Alicia snapped out of her dazed. Alicia looked concerned. She knew even if she wanted to stop him, he wouldn't listen. And truthfully, only he was strong enough to stop this monster. Take everyone with you and leave this island. This island isn't safe anymore. Once the fight started, the collision of their attacks might even take out the entire island. While fighting this monster, Aditya can't guarantee the safety of his wife and his people. Alright. Take care of yourself. With each step, one by one, he started activating his passive skills. He also wore the Crimson Warlock armor set, Inferno Overdrive, Storm Flight, Lightning Armor, Crimson Lightning Dash. Goo. When Aditya arrived, he saw a 3 meters tall monster had lifted a beginner 5th order cultivator by his throat. You're finally here. I have been waiting for you. Who are you? No, the question should be what are you? Are you Lucas or a monster? That's an interesting question. Even I am not sure about the answer. I am still Lucas. But I am also Beltheros the Devouring Shade. Aditya started to walk around Lucas. What exactly you have turned yourself into? Aditya couldn't help but ask. He didn't have any knowledge about the monster that Lucas had turned himself into. I have lived for more than 7 centuries. It had taken me 7 centuries to build the current Echo Nexus Empire. You might be more powerful than me, but I am more knowledgeable than you. Aditya secretly rolled his eyes. He wanted a straight answer. In my long life, I was fortunate enough to find the corpses of some beings that do not originate from this realm. It took a long time, but I finally succeeded. Through numbers, trails and errors, I have become a hybrid hell monster. Hybrid hell monster? What's that supposed to be? Hearing this, Lucas was left speechless. Then he remembered that Aditya was only 19 years old. It was normal for him to not know about such a thing. There are other realms connected to this living realm. The hell is one of them. The hell monsters are found in hell realm. So you somehow managed to change yourself into a hybrid hell monster? But why? Why? Do you even realize the power of a hell monster? Even 10 hell monsters can take over this entire world as long as they are given a little time to grow. Not even your mighty dragons can understand in front of hell monsters. Aditya felt Lucas was purposely keeping the main point from him, and that is the power of the hell monster. Looking at the withered dead bodies around Lucas, Aditya had some ideas about what a hell monster's power may be. Why are you doing this? I thought you wanted to surrender. Aditya had to keep asking questions. He can still sense a few other people on this island. Meaning that the evacuation process wasn't over yet. I wasn't planning on facing you here. The plan was to face you at the front line. But unexpectedly you managed to kill the Empire's strongest cultivator. I had to change my plans. Are you still mad about what I did to your son? If so, then you can take your son back. After all, I don't have any use for him. I have to waste my resources to feed him and keep him alive. Aditya's words had managed to anger Lucas. There was still some love for his son. Since you have taken my son, I am going to take the life of your wife in front of your own eyes. On hearing these words, he had to force himself to calm down. I already know that you're trying to buy time for those people to escape. Hearing this, Aditya was surprised. He stopped walking around Lucas. A black greatsword appeared in thin air. While keeping his eyes on Aditya, he held the great sword. No matter how far they run, I am going to kill all of them, including your dear wife. As long as I am alive, I won't let that happen. Aditya already had bought out the adamantite doomblade. Both men's weapons clashed in midair, producing sparks of flame as he took a step back. Suddenly the ground beneath him cracked. He couldn't react in time to dodge the black chains that rose from the ground. But that grin soon disappeared as numerous bolts of lightning bolts struck Lucas. Meanwhile, just as Aditya's foot touched the ground, from the cracks, red magma started coming out. The magma easily destroyed the black chains and freed his legs. However, the very next second, the earth slightly trembled. Giant cracks spread everywhere. Piercing the thick blanket of snow, thousands of black chains rose from the ground. All chains had surrounded Aditya. Annoying chains. Just as Aditya destroyed all of the black chains, Lucas appeared on his back. 2 lava hands arose from the magma under Aditya's foot and stopped. To Aditya's surprise, Lucas did nothing. Something is wrong. Aditya became wary of what Lucas was doing to do, and sure enough, just when he closed his eyes, there was no Lucas in front of him. But the question is, where is Lucas? This must be another trick or skill of his. As he started flying, all of the black chains reacted. He easily destroyed all of the annoying chains using crimson flame and then kept looking for Lucas. I am getting tired of this sneaky fight. Lucas did not cast an illusion on Aditya. Aditya, can you guess where I am? You can't find me, Dragon Monarch. Unless I want you to find me. Undead summoning. A small shadow materialized on the ground. In that split second, Aditya was able to sense Lucas's presence, but that presence quickly faded away as the shadow disappeared. A large black magic circle appeared. Thousands of powerful undeads began to rise from the magic circle. These undeads are very strong. If I had holy magic, then everything would have been 10 times easier. In that case, let me show my elemental powers. Aditya invested 1,000 plus of his mana into his innate skill. Magma manipulation. The snow rapidly began to melt while magma gushed out of the earth and took over the land. Meanwhile, everything was covered in black miasma. Where are you? If the situation continued like this, Aditya either would have to last long enough to force Lucas to come out of his hiding. And Aditya had no idea how long that would take. With a wave of his hand, a wave of magma devoured all of the undeads. Aditya stopped flying around. This time, the magic circle summoned 100 giant black wolves. Before the wolves could even come within his 10 meters radius, the magma started to devour them. Pathetic. Just as Aditya uttered this word, he suddenly felt a presence on his back. So just like Nathan, he can use shadow to travel and also hide himself in shadow. This time Aditya completely closed his eye. 10 seconds passed in silence and Aditya hadn't moved an inch. He continued to wait for Lucas with his eyes closed. Another 10 seconds passed. Another 10 seconds passed. On the 32nd second, Aditya finally felt Lucas's presence. Just as he felt Lucas's presence, he shot a small bullet-sized compressed crimson flame. The compressed crimson flame bullet managed to hit Lucas. With the hit, Lucas's entire body appeared before Aditya. Ding! Crimson corruption has been activated. With the activation of crimson corruption, a red sparkling aura appeared around Lucas. Lucas grunted in pain. Ding! Crimson corruption has inflicted bleeding effect on the target. For the next 5 seconds, the target will lose 3% of health. This curse effect can stack up to 3 dots. In the next 2 seconds, Aditya created 10 more of the compressed crimson flame bullets and shot them at Lucas, who was lying in front of Aditya. A small groan escaped Lucas's mouth. He was in pain. Ding. Crimson corruption has been activated. Ding. Crimson corruption has inflicted bleeding effect on the target. For the next 5 seconds, the target will lose 3% of health. Ding. Crimson corruption has been activated. Ding. Crimson. Ding. Crimson corruption has been activated. I have been waiting for this. Aditya grabbed Lucas's hair and pulled him up. Lucas freed himself from Aditya's grasp and then wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I have won. Lucas freed himself from Aditya's grasp and then wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I have won. Aditya couldn't speak. He couldn't move his body. He couldn't manipulate mana inside his body. This meant that he can't use any of his skills. Through his eyes, he expressed anger and confusion while staring at Luke. I am not going to kill you now. As I said before, I am going to kill your dear wife in front of your own eyes. Aditya stared at Lucas's back with his eyes wide open. No. Aditya screamed in his mind. Watching Lucas leave, Aditya became more and more desperate. Move, damn it. The dead images of his wives flashed before his eyes. Whatever it takes, whatever sacrifice it requires him. Aditya wanted to stop Lucas. I said movie. Crack. Lucas, who was 100 meters away from Aditya, suddenly stopped walking as if he felt something. At the same time, Aditya felt the barrier that was preventing his body from moving shattering. No. It's impossible, unless his will is strong enough to overpower mine. Lucas turned around and watched in shock as Aditya broke free from his mind control. Mind control. Since Aditya is too strong, Lucas can never mind control him. He instead tried to paralyze him. But Aditya was able to break the dark spell with his strong will. As Aditya freed himself, the crimson lightning swimming at the clouds rumbled. Crimson lightning began to cover his entire body, forming a layer of lightning around his body. Meanwhile, Lucas knew that he was in trouble, so he decided to go back into hiding and play it safe till he can find any weak undead summoning. As he summoned another wave of undeads in front of Aditya, Lucas slowly proceeded to sink into his shadow while staring at Aditya. This time you're not getting away. Lucas's entire body already had submerged into his shadow. Only his head and neck remained outside. Suddenly a rainbow-color lightning bolt landed on Lucas's head. Boom! He was thrown out of his shadow. The rainbow lightning was 10,000 times stronger compared to a normal crimson lightning bolt. Enraged lightning spell. Meanwhile, a giant wave of lava rose in the air. The wave had reached a height of 30 meters. TSK. It seems this time my attack failed to activate Crimson Corruption. Aditya hoped that Crimson Corruption would get activated. Once activated, on top of the damage that Lucas received from the enraged lightning spell, the Crimson Corruption would also put the bleeding curse on him once more. Swoosh. Within a few seconds, he appeared in front of Lucas, who was lying on the ground and groaning in pain. Got anything else? Cough. Coughing out a large mouthful of blood, Lucas got on one knee and looked at Aditya with a grin. Well, I still have a few more. I am not going to wait till you use them. As he found himself flying in the air, he was confused. But then his eyes fell on his headless body. His head fell a few meters away from his body. You're not playing fair. Everything in a battle is fair. Sigh. It's finally over. Aditya looked at Lucas's headless body that was still on his one knee. Let's burn this corpse to ash. What the? He couldn't even finish as he saw the headless body had begun to move. What kind of monster is this? Aditya's eyes fell on Lucas's body. At the same time, more black tentacles moved to grab Aditya's body. Ding. Crimson lightning blink. Ding. Using Crimson lightning blink has increased your speed by 800. Aditya turned into a bolt of crimson lightning. Boom. The headless body was sent flying. Enraged lightning spell. A powerful rainbow-color lightning bolt struck the headless monster. Aditya, you can't kill this monster like this. What are you doing here? I told you to take everyone away from here. Then why did you come here? Listen to me. Without the hellfire, you can't defeat this monster. A long time ago, our ancestors somehow managed to obtain the hellfire. The hellfire only exists in hell. It is the strongest weapon against hell monsters. Since then, anyone with Osborne family blood has possessed extraordinary fire affinity and the ability to use hellfire without even needing to use spells. So what should we do? You see, all hell monsters desire to escape hell and come to this world. Even after death, these monsters do not wish to leave. I will take things over. Just stand back. Today I get to take the spotlight from you. Hellfire. Alicia summoned a giant orb of golden flame. Looking at the golden flame, Aditya can tell that this flame wasn't any ordinary flame. At the same time, the appearance of the hellfire began to clear the black miasma that had covered the entire island. Looking at the golden flame, Aditya suddenly had an idea in his mind. Alicia, let's combine our flames. Alicia found the idea very tempting. She also wanted to see the end product of this. Alright. Aditya pointed his left palm toward the golden flame. The next second, a crimson flame from his palm started mixing with the golden flame. Undead both of their surprised eyes, the color of the flame started to change. The golden flame started to turn into a dark blue flame. The dark blue flame looked very majestic. Aditya and Alicia didn't even blink their eyes as if afraid the blue flame in front of them would disappear. The blue flame hit the headless monster. The monster's body instantly turned to ashes. Inside the flame, even those ashes had been broken into something extremely small. At the same time, the air around the entire island cleared up. The black miasma had completely disappeared. And peace had turned to the island. Ding! You have killed a peak 5th order hell monster. Your experience points have been saved for future use. I think our future children will be born with the ability to control this magnificent-looking dark blue flame. Aditya broke the silence. He held Alicia from behind. Alicia smiled, imagining her children using the dark blue flame. This dark blue flame would represent their union. The crimson flame and the golden flame would merge to become something much more beautiful. I love you. Alicia felt the need to say these words. I love you too. Alicia both of her cheeks and continued to hug her from behind. While enjoying the silence and the peace with her husband, her eyes looked around. Unfortunately, this battle had destroyed almost everything on this island. More than 2/3 of the total forest was totally gone. The whole of Blackburn village was destroyed. No houses were left standing. This place had turned into a barren wasteland. Our dream of making a wooden house on this island is over. Aditya tightened his hug and pulled her closer to comfort her in silence. Our presence on this island had taken away the ice elves' lives. We have destroyed their home. We have destroyed their land. We have destroyed everything that they held dear on this island. Alicia then turned around and deeply stared into his eyes. Aditya, you must find these elves a new place to settle down and provide them with all the necessary resources. Alicia had developed a sense of attachment to this island and its people after only spending a few hours touring around the island. Of course. Choosing this place for the meeting was a big mistake on our part. I can't return to their old life, but I will help them find a new life. Hearing this, Alicia smiled sweetly before hugging him. After a brief period of hugging each other, Alicia couldn't help but feel curious about the end result of this war. Lucas and all other emperors had died. Aditya and his allies can easily take over their territories. What are you going to do now? Sigh. I don't know. Things went very differently than I had initially expected. Taking over all those territories would mean a lot of headaches and work was coming toward him. For the first time, Aditya didn't feel too happy about acquiring so much territory. The surviving ice elves, accompanied by Aditya, Daxton, and their men, made their way toward Goldleaf City, the bustling metropolis that stood as a beacon of civilization on the mainland. For the ice elves, this marked their first foray into the vastness of a city, a stark contrast to the quiet solitude they had known all their lives on their secluded island. As they approached the city gates, a mixture of awe, excitement, and apprehension washed over the faces of the ice elves. Their eyes widened as they took in the sprawling streets filled with a diverse array of people, each bustling with their own purpose. The sounds of carriages, laughter, and animated conversations reached their ears, creating a symphony of urban life that they had only heard of in stories. Their gazes darted from one grand building to another, marveling at the architectural wonders that towered above them. The ice elves, dressed in their traditional attire of white and blue, stood out amidst the vibrant tapestry of colors that adorned the streets. Some of the ice elves clasped their hands tightly together, their grip offering a sense of reassurance and comfort amidst the unfamiliar surrounding. Aditya and Daxton, aware of the ice elves' unease, exchanged a brief glance, understanding the significance of this moment for their newfound allies. Welcome to Goldleaf City, Aditya said, his voice filled with warmth. It may be overwhelming at first, but fear not. We are here with you, and we will guide you through this new world. Daxton added, his tone reassuring, you will find that the city is full of wonders and opportunities. The ice elves, their expressions softening, nodded in gratitude, their apprehension slowly giving way to a sense of trust and excitement. As they immersed themselves in the bustling streets of Goldleaf City, their wide-eyed expressions began to transform into ones of curiosity and fascination. For the ice elves, this journey marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. The meeting room, nestled within the heart of Goldleaf City, the capital of the Echo Dominion Empire, exuded an air of grandeur and power. The opulent chamber was adorned with intricate golden accents, reflecting the empire's wealth and influence. Tall, arched windows lined one side of the room, allowing sunlight to filter through and cast a warm glow upon the polished marble floor. At the center of the room stood a long, mahogany table, polished to a lustrous sheen. At the head of the table sat Daxton, the Echo Dominion Emperor, his chair slightly larger and adorned with more elaborate embellishments, symbolizing his status as the host. The room itself seemed to hold an air of reverence, its grandeur only matched by the weight of the decisions to be made within its walls. As the leaders convened around the table, their eyes cast upon the maps and documents before them, they were keenly aware of the significance of the room and the role they played in shaping the future of the northwestern region. Together, in this majestic chamber, the fate of nations would be determined, alliances forged, and the path to a new era of unity and prosperity laid out. Alicia, the enchanting and shrewd goddess of wealth, joined the meeting, her presence commanding attention and respect. Aditya leaned forward, his voice carrying an air of authority and conviction. We must acknowledge the undeniable truth, my esteemed allies and adversaries. The Isteran Empire's intervention turned the tide of this war. Without our forces, the Echo Dominion Empire would have faced irrevocable losses. Therefore, it is only fair that we are rewarded with a substantial portion of the territory. Daxton furrowed his brow, a mix of admiration and skepticism playing across his features. Aditya, I concede that your empire's military prowess was a vital asset in this conflict. However, let us not discount the sacrifices made by the Echo Dominion Empire. We fought valiantly and endured immense hardships. I propose that the division of territories be based not solely on the military contribution but also on the potential for future stability and growth. Alicia, her gaze unwavering, interjected with a measured tone. Gentlemen, I have witnessed the ebb and flow of power throughout history. In my estimation, a fair division of territories must balance the need for justice with the imperative of ensuring economic prosperity. We must consider the resources, trade routes, and strategic advantages that each territory offered. Aditya nodded, acknowledging Alicia's astute perspective. You make a valid point, Alicia. It is crucial that we find a balance between honoring our respective contributions and paving the way for long-term stability. Let us proceed by sharing our preferences for territories, and through open dialogue, we shall strive to reach a fair and equitable agreement. Daxton leaned back, contemplating his words carefully before responding. I propose that the Echo Dominion Empire retains control over the territories bordering the Echo Nexus Empire, solidifying our influence in that region. In return, I suggest that the Isteran Empire lay claim to the western coastal areas, rich in resources and strategic importance. This division would provide both empires with significant advantages while maintaining a semblance of balance. Aditya's gaze intensified as he considered Daxton's proposition. Daxton, your proposal holds merit, and I see the wisdom in it. If we divide the Echo Nexus Empire into 3 parts, the central, eastern, and western regions, I am content to take control of the western part. In doing so, the Isteran Empire can safeguard our interests while allowing the Echo Dominion Empire to consolidate its control over the central and eastern regions. Alicia, her voice a harmonious blend of authority and diplomacy, added her insights. I concur with Aditya's suggestion. By dividing the Echo Nexus Empire in such a manner, we can ensure a fair distribution of territories while fostering stability and cooperation. Furthermore, we should consider the inclusion of the Obi Islands, known for their Ethereum mines, under the control of the Isteran Empire. This would provide a valuable resource and contribute to the prosperity of both our empires. Daxton leaned forward, a thoughtful expression on his face. Aditya's eyes gleamed with a mixture of satisfaction and relief. Excellent. With this agreement, we lay the foundation for a future of peace and prosperity. Our empires shall unite in a bond forged by strength and understanding. As the negotiation progressed, the 3 leaders delved deeper into the specifics, debating the allocation of smaller territories, trade routes, and resource distribution. Alicia's shrewd insights helped steer the conversation towards a middle ground, ensuring that the interests of all parties were considered. Adam, Aditya's father-in-law and a wise advisor from the Echo Dominion Empire, sat silently, observing the proceedings with a serene composure. He recognized the delicate balance that needed to be struck and trusted in the wisdom of the leaders gathered in the room. After hours of intense deliberation, a breakthrough was finally reached. The territories of the Echo Nexus Empire were divided as proposed, with the western coastal region falling under the control of the Isteran Empire, along with the coveted Obi Islands. The Anna Maria Islands, once under the governance of the Mystic Spring Empire, were to be ceded to the Echo Dominion Empire. The Catalina Islands, previously held by the Mythia Empire, were granted to the Hephaestus Kingdom, offering them a chance at redemption and growth. The vast expanse of the Mythia Empire's territories was also bestowed upon the Hephaestus Kingdom, allowing them the opportunity to restore order and prosperity to the war-torn lands. Daxton, filled with gratitude and awe, turned to Aditya. Your Majesty, I cannot express my gratitude enough. My empire owes its survival to your unwavering support. I humbly accept your gift of the Mythia Empire and the trust you have placed in me. Aditya, his voice laced with sincerity, responded, Daxton, this is not a gift but a testament to our alliance. Your bravery and determination have earned the admiration of my empire. As the division of territories was finalized, a sense of relief washed over the room. The tense atmosphere gradually dissipated, replaced by an air of cautious optimism. The leaders had skillfully navigated a complex negotiation process, ensuring a fair distribution of power and resources. Aditya leaned back in his chair, a mix of satisfaction and contemplation on his face. The new territories that would soon come under his empire's rule presented both opportunities and challenges. Rebuilding the Hephaestus Kingdom, restoring peace, and developing the Western territories would require careful planning and collaboration with his allies. Daxton, his gaze fixed on the map of the newly defined territories, found himself filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The alliance forged between their empires held the promise of a brighter future, one where prosperity and security could be attained for their people. As the negotiation drew to a close, Aditya and Daxton shared a knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement of the weight that now rested upon their shoulders. Daxton, a hint of admiration in his eyes, spoke first. Aditya, I must admit that I underestimated your strength and resolve. The Isteran Empire has proven its mettle on the battlefield and in these negotiations. We have much to learn from your leadership. Aditya, humbled by the recognition, nodded in appreciation. Thank you, Daxton. Our journey has been fraught with challenges, but together, we have overcome them. May our alliance serve as an example to future generations, showing that even in times of conflict, understanding, and cooperation can lead to a better world. And with that, the meeting concluded, leaving the room filled with a sense of hope and anticipation for the future of the Northwestern region.